Going on, guys? Welcome back to another Game Time Discussions. I'm Emery Cuzzy, and today I get to hang out with both Dustin and Cameron instead of just our normal two people show. Very excited about this. We're going to be doing our Bowl Mania picks. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to let Cam tell you about our contest that we're going to get going for Bowl Mania, though.
Yeah, so it's going to start on Saturday Central Standard Time at 11 a.m. The first game is going to be Jackson State versus South Carolina State for an FCS game. That is the lone game, but that is when the contest is officially there to where you have to have an entry into our contest, which the link will be in our description for this video. The thing is that's fun about this game is that the confidence picks, you basically rank 1 through I think 41. Your confidence in how strongly you feel about these games, and you get the points for wins that are more confident or less confident, and then obviously losses don't hurt as much if they're ranked very, very low for you. And the great part is you get to adjust this until the lock of that exact kickoff. So say there's a game for the first round and you're not confident for the college football playoff. Well, you have until the day that game kicks off, which is also this Saturday, right? Or
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the following Saturday on the 21st is when the first round of the playoff is. And you get to maneuver around all you want. The only thing is you just got to have your entry in by 11 a.m. this Saturday. So it'll be a whole lot of fun, and we're excited to kick it off for us.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Hopefully, we can get as many people in there as possible. We will have some prizes. First, second, and third will all be getting merch, and then first place will be getting a $25 gift card to the NFL shop. So we will add that. If you did win, we are going to be checking. You have to be subscribed to the YouTube channel, and you have to be following the Instagram to get those prizes. So make sure you do that. But let's start it off. I'm going to pull the screen up now, and I'm going to let Dustin introduce these FCS teams.
Yeah, so first game we've got is the Cricket Celebration Bowl. This is annually the winner of the SWAC versus the winner of the MEAC in the FCS. Jackson State representing the SWAC and South Carolina State representing the MEAC.
Yeah, I in this game, this is our only game that's going to be FCS. So talking about some of these teams, we did add some, of course, strength of schedule and power rankings, but they're all based on the FCS schedules. So not much to talk about for this game. We're going to get through this one pretty quickly. Cam, do you have a pick, and how confident are you?
Well, it is my one out of my confidence rankings. Obviously, don't know a ton about the team, but I was surprised on the Bolt Media how 86% are flocking towards Jackson State. This is a close game between two teams that finished strong to end the year. Chinnis Berry, for the head coach for South Carolina State, took over for the first time and had a 6-win turnaround. And Eric Phoenix, their quarterback, won the first ever inaugural HBCU Plus Player of the Year. And the second place was actually Irv Mulligan, the running back for Jackson State. So very fun between both of those two guys going head to head. Hopefully it will be very fun. I picked South Carolina State to be contrarian because I just don't think 86% should be that one-sided. And if I'm going to gamble a point, I'm going to be on the underdog in this one.
Absolutely. Dustin, what about you?
Yeah, I went ahead and went with the majority, took Jackson State. They've played two more games. These teams line up real evenly, just looking at their total offense and defense. I think it'll be a really good battle. That line or the spread of -1 is probably pretty accurate with how much of a toss-up this game can be. I think with two more games of experience, though, Jackson State will just be more ready.
Yeah, I'm actually going with South Carolina State. So maybe me and Cam don't really know FCS, and it's going to be similar to mid majors if you looked at our other picks for our conference championships. But yeah, I think South Carolina State gets it done. I also want to be contrarian like Cam. And there's really not anything separating these teams. So as Cam said, 86% just seems too big of a difference in my personal opinion also. But that is the Cricket Celebration Bowl. Going on to the next bowl, we're going to be looking at the Salute Veterans Bowl. It's going to be in Montgomery, Alabama. So South Alabama is basically a home team in this situation. They are -7.5 here. And my biggest thing looking at it, they really, really have the power ranking edge. And that kind of was surprising to me that they did match these two teams up so early. But both teams have really good players. So it just depends on where we're at. But I am going to be picking South Alabama in this one. So
I'm going to as well. I think this is actually one that could become a really high scoring game. But South Alabama finished the year in their Final Five averaging about 34.6 points a game. And then Western Michigan lost 3 or 4 to end the year. So they're kind of the ones that are riding high. They're a touchdown favorite for a reason. So I'm going to ride with the favorite in this one.
Yeah, I'd love to be contrarian, but I'm the same way. I think South Alabama will win this one pretty easily. They have a lot more offensive firepower, and then, like Emery said, their power rankings just across the board are better. So, yeah, I think South Alabama wins too.
yeah, if you, whoop, sorry, apologies. If you are going to be watching this game, Gio Lopez and Jamal Pritchett are the guys to be watching. Pritchett had 1,127 receiving yards this year, so he is the main guy that Gio Lopez will be looking to in this game. On the other side, though, Jaden Nixon on offense for the Western Michigan Broncos will be the guy you want to find. Going on to the next game. Memphis is ranked number 25, 10-2 season, really solid season. Did get that win against Tulane to end the year. That was a huge win for their program, pushing them into the top 25. West Virginia, on the other hand, was a team that I think would have probably been ranked top 5 in the Big 12 in preseason. And very close ranked power rankings wise, of course, here. I don't expect offensive lineman of the year in the Big 12, Wyatt Milam, to play. He is a senior, and I expect him to go to the draft. So there are some other guys, though, that we'll be talking about. Do y'all have Cameron, do you have a sway on this game?
So first off, I was actually surprised that West Virginia opened as a favorite in this game. It's flipped all the way to 4.5 for Memphis, and that's probably the side that I'm going to go with. Really, it kind of comes down to Memphis just being really good. Time of possession, doesn't turn the ball over. They're top 20 scoring offense, and West Virginia doesn't really defend anything well that Memphis is good at. And also wanted to say that Mario Anderson finished the year really strong, having 169 all-purpose yards in 5 of the last 6. In the one game he did not, he scored twice. So that was something that stuck out to me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Dustin?
Yeah, I'm with Memphis also, coming off that big win against Tulane. They've looked a lot better. West Virginia, you were close. They were predicted 7th in the Big
Well, there you
12. I think part of that is because people expected their quarterback Green to have a much better year than he did, and he just has underperformed. He has 13 touchdowns and 11 picks this year. I think Memphis will be able to handle this one. I'm also surprised that West Virginia was originally favored on betting lines. I agree with Cam that the flip is probably more accurate now.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm going to be picking Memphis also, and I am going to be picking them because I actually was the one that wanted to put turnover margin on these screens. As you can see, the Memphis is second in turnover margin, 103rd over here for West Virginia, and as you said, 13-11 touchdown to interception rate for Garrett Green is not very good, and that kind of falls right into the hands of what Memphis likes to do. So yeah,
Yep.
I think Memphis makes a lot of sense here, and we'll go on to the next one. Oh, there you go. Here, Dustin, I'll let you get this one because you did want to do the Fun Belt.
Yes, Fun Belt is so much fun to talk about. Yeah, Western Kentucky and James Madison. With this one, I think James Madison probably wins it. Western Kentucky coming off a tough end of the year, losing to Jacksonville State in not exactly a good way in that conference championship game. The defense, kind of like we talked about last time, or on the last one, the turnover margin. James Madison's really good at that. I just see them pulling this one out.
Fair enough.
I kind of I'm on your side as well. Western Kentucky is just really bad against the run, allowing over 220 yards a game. And James Madison loves to run the ball. They keep the ball pretty well, 30th in the nation in time of possession, first in turnover ratio, and then also the thing that does make me nervous is James Madison is going to be without their starting quarterback, Elzana Barnett, and they're going to be starting Billy Atkins for the first time this season. But it would be cool to see James Madison win because they did recently move up, and this would be their first bowl game in program history that if they should win.
Yeah, I'm on the same side with the James Madison Dukes because, and as you alluded to, James Madison will be without their quarterback, but also Western Kentucky will be out without both of their first and second string quarterbacks. Both TJ Finley and Veldkamp have gone into the transfer portal. So I don't even know who they're going to be playing at this point, but it's not going to be someone they're comfortable with. They had issues on offense already, and James Madison with the 42nd overall defense, creating turnovers, it just makes a lot more sense that they will have more success on their side of the ball. So I think that makes a lot of sense in my personal opinion. Boca Raton Bowl. It's also closer, I believe, to James Madison, if geographically. So,
Any guesses on where TJ Finley goes for his fifth university?
no, absolutely not. A
Now,
small school.
he repped Texas State for a year.
He did.
Yeah,
He
he
did.
did.
1 year, and we got our first bowl game win in history.
Yep.
History.
That was our first
So,
one.
ever. So he helped us win our first game ever. So lots of love for him. But he did not start for Western Kentucky, and now he's out of there. So we'll see where he goes.
Maybe he goes back.
Hope not, honestly. um, Next game up, the LA Bowl between Cal and UNLV. UNLV did play in that game against Boise State. They looked awful. They've only lost 3 games this year, of course. Two of them to Boise State, and that's where a lot of you look at the power rankings and stuff. They are very worthy of this 24 overall position. 20th if defensive efficiency. I do want to talk about one player on their defense, and I'll let y'all talk about offense. But Jackson Woodard, he is the defensive player of the year in the Mountain West Conference. He is a complete difference maker. I remember watching him in the first game versus Boise State. Him and Ashton Genty were having an absolute game between the two of each other. So I think he is a difference maker in this game, and I am taking UNLV. So
I'm actually on the other side of this one, and it's interesting because this is kind of another game you wouldn't think a 6-6 California team would be favored over, a 24th overall ranked UNLV. But UNLV's head coach Barry Odom left for Purdue. Their OC has wiped his social media of the entire program, so it's likely they're going to be without him as well. And then California playing kind of in the same state, they're essentially a home team in this one, and because they are a favorite. And I looked on the bowl pick'em, and actually they're only 20% being picked right now. So being a favorite and only 20% of the picks are on them, that's why I kind of decided to go that route.
Yeah, I'm on the UNLV side on this one. I like Haj Malik Williams a lot, and Ray and I have talked about him quite a bit on our recap shows. I think they'll be fine without Barry Odom. I think it adds almost a layer of the unknown as far as what California will be able to expect out of them. And then also California, their quarterback entered the transfer portal. So, and they did not, I haven't seen anything from them without Mendoza, who almost carried that team in their close games against Miami and some of their other games. Of their 6 losses, only one was by more than one possession, so I do think they keep it close. But I think UNLV wins overall.
perfect. I do want to also shout out Ricky White, who was named first team wide receiver and special teams player of the year in the Mountain West Conference. UNLV has a lot of talent on that team, and that's another reason why we're picking them. Cam on the other side, completely understand. You're picking the favorite that has very little love on the actual Bowl Mania site, so I get it. Going over though, we're gonna look at this Georgia Southern versus Sam Houston State game. Starting off with Sam Houston State, they are basically transferring 7 starters off of their active roster, which I thought was really surprising, including Caleb Weaver, who was the best player on their team on defense. So I thought that was interesting. I will be picking Georgia Southern because I think that those types of issues hurt a team a lot. They were already outranked in the power rankings. A 9-3 Sam Houston team, though, they can do a lot. So I'm a little bit worried. This one I would say is a low confidence pick, even knowing it's a Georgia Southern -6. Go ahead, guys.
I thought I was going to let Cameron. I'll go ahead and go.
No, go ahead.
Grace
wanna
would probably
see it.
kill me because she went to Sam Houston State.
Oh.
I'm on the Georgia Southern side on this one.
Okay.
I will say I would have picked Sam Houston until I went on three's transfer portal and saw an entire web page of just Bearcat logos. So, as fun as that team was this year and their spectacular comeback win against Texas State, I think Georgia Southern will win.
Yeah, I agree with them that this is kind of a low, confidence game. It will not be, for a lot of points one way or the other for me. I decided right now I'm going with Sam Houston kind of a homer pick, but only allowing 20 points per game and being a top 10 pass defense, whereas Georgia Southern was bottom or worse than 100th against both the run and the pass, and 120th in total defense, which is one of the worst of all the bowl eligible teams. So I just decided defense, is going to win this game in a lower scoring, ugly kind of sicko like game.
Yeah,
Sicko game.
I wonder. I just wonder if those five transfers on defense hurt them, but I completely understand if everybody was playing, I would feel it the same way.
Yeah.
But the -6 kind of tells me that it has shifted because I believe earlier in the week it was closer to pick 'em. So that kind of tells me that, the things have changed from the betting standpoint.
As
Going
far
to
as
the
the
next,
ESPN page, real quick,
go
Sam
ahead.
Houston State has 49% of the vote. Georgia Southern's 51%. So very much a toss-up as far as the actual people picking the games.
Gotcha. Going to the next game, I'm actually really excited about this game. The Staffdna uh, Cure Bowl in Orlando, Florida, between Ohio and Jacksonville State. I'm going to let Dustin take this one because he knows how to pick mid majors way better than myself. So I'm going to let him go ahead and do this
This
one.
this feels unfair since I picked both of them to win their conference
Yes.
championships and they both dominated. So now I'm putting them against each other. Um, we kind of mentioned earlier James Madison, how it's the fun pick because they're now moving up the divisions and able to play in the bowl game. That's kind of how I feel about this Jacksonville State team. They should have made it last year or the year before. I can't remember whichever one. They got snubbed because of that NCAA rule, even though they won like 10 games. They've looked good this year. They dominated Western Kentucky, like I said earlier, and they've got the turnover margin much more on their side. The power ranking says these teams are the exact same, so I could see it going either way, but I'm taking the Jacksonville State team on this one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cam?
I'm kind of in agreement with you. This is just a classic, high scoring offense versus elite scoring defense. Ohio's top five against the run, only allowing 17 and a half, and then Jacksonville State, 36 a game. They have one of the top three nation leaders with Trey Stewart at running back, and then also Tyler Huff has 1,300 yards and 14 touchdowns as a quarterback rushing. So just classic, back and forth, but I think they just put up just enough points to be over the top.
Yeah, I was actually going to shout out both of those guys. Those guys are played really good in that championship game, and they were a reason that I originally picked them to win that championship game, and I'm going to roll with them also because I picked Miami, Ohio the first time. I'm not going to do that again. I'm not. I'm gonna go against Ohio again. I'm gonna get them to lose this time around in the Staffdna Cure Bowl. But yeah, very excited about this game. This game is actually going to be a classic. This game will be one you will want to watch
Yeah.
when it comes to it. Very low confidence picks, in my personal opinion, but it's going to be a fun game to like be a part of. Going over to the next game though, this game is a current -13 to the Florida Gators. The Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl down in Tampa, Florida. I really like the logo on this one. I think it's really cool. But Florida has been just lights out since DJ Lagway got healthy. He's taken down some juggernauts this year, and defensive efficiency really stands out. I know that, of course, on both sides, offensive and defensive efficiency is actually really close, but I know that Florida plays in the SEC. That 25th overall defense efficiency makes me more excited than the Tulane side. And Tulane has dropped 2 games in a row, so I'm going to be siding with the Florida Gators at that -13 and a half or 13. I think that's about right, actually, and I will be very confident in this pick.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of the safer picks to play, and then there's a reason why it's one of the biggest spreads as well in the entire bowl game slate. Like you said, Florida finished the year strong. They just were dealt a really bad schedule
Mm-hmm.
in this first year revamped SEC, and they did finish the year strong. Two ranked wins, knocked out LSU and Ole Miss out of the playoff hunt, almost essentially. So, really fun way to just kind of finish the year strong and go into next year, which I think that they could be flirting with top 25 program to start the year.
Yeah, I'm on Florida's side also, especially with this game being in Tampa. The location is much closer to them, and a healthy DJ Lagway is really hard to stop, especially as he's progressed throughout the year. So I agree, it's high confidence for me. I would take the Gators.
True freshman DJ Lagway is changing the world. But yeah, let's go over to the next game, and it is going to be our first. We're going to start talking about the college football playoffs. This game will be at Notre Dame, which is guess where? Indiana. So it doesn't really matter. Both teams are close enough. This is the closest game out of all of the first round playoff games. Couple 11-1 teams. I was really surprised when I saw that Notre Dame was the number 2 power ranked team in the nation. It has a lot to do with the fact that they are 11-1 and haven't lost any games since Northern Illinois early in the year. Defense is good. Turnover margin. Look at that turnover margin on both sides. It's just, smash mouth football. But in my personal opinion, Indiana, best win on the year is Michigan. That makes me uncomfortable to pick a team where, Notre Dame, of course, doesn't have just these insane wins either. But I've seen more consistency out of them. I know that, the type of football they play, great defense, solid running offense. That's what gets me excited, and I will be siding with Notre Dame in that case.
So one thing I was interested in asking both of you guys in this, both of these teams top 5 in the nation in scoring. They're also top 6 in scoring defense. Is this more of a grinded out game? Is this more of a shootout? What way are you guys leaning on with this game?
I'm going grinded out personally.
Yeah, I think it's an under.
Yeah.
I think that it's probably a touchdown game, but I would take the under something around 24-17 or something like that is where I would put this game. And just because I think when Curtis Rourke has had hard times, it's against good teams. Even Michigan. Michigan is considered somewhat of a good team. He had a really difficult time against them. He had a difficult time against Ohio State. Well, how about one of the best defenses in football right here in Notre Dame? He will have a hard time against them, and they're going to have to lean on their running game. That makes more sense to a lower scoring game, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I was kind of in agreement with you guys on that one. I saw that line and I just thought that was pretty high for what I thought this game would be, which I thought might be a 24-17 kind of game. But it should be a fun one. Middle of the country is going to be a little bit cold going into around Christmas time. So, obviously the weather could potentially be a factor as well. But also one player I wanted to shout out was Xavier Watts, who right now leads the nation since the start of 2023 with 12 interceptions.
Absolute stud.
Yeah.
Believe he was All-American last year. Am I saying that right? Okay.
Didn't he win Defensive Player of the Year last year?
I think so. It was either him or Latu, but I can't remember off the top of my head which one got it. But yeah, he absolutely deserving of it this year again. He's been great. So he's not going to get it though, just because there's some other players that have been awesome too. So
Sure.
but yeah. So are we all on Notre Dame?
Yes.
All
I
on
am.
Notre Dame. I
All
would
right.
say, yeah, with all 4 of them being, touchdown spreads, it's kind of could be a little chalky across the green with a lot of people in this bowl pick'em contest, but it just kind of depends on how confident you are in these first round matchups.
For sure. Going over to the next first round matchup, you have Penn State and SMU. SMU coming off of the loss to Clemson in the ACC title. Penn State coming off the loss in the Big Ten title to Oregon, but they are not minus 9-point favorites. This is the farthest team to have to travel in the first round, going from Texas up to Pennsylvania. Different kind of weather there, but I never want to count SMU out of any game, and I'm picking Penn State to win, but this is actually one of my lower confident first round picks, possibly the lowest confident first round pick by far, now that I think about all the other ones. And it's because SMU has the firepower on offense to be able to score a lot of points. Rashad Smith's really good, guys. So
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you of just this one. I didn't feel good at all one way or the other. I ended up siding with Penn State in this one, but very low confidence. And, hopefully I am wrong because it would be cool to see SMU bounce all the way back into becoming one of the top, final 6 or 8 teams going into the second round. Obviously would blow everybody's expectations out of the water in their first year in the ACC.
Yeah, on this one, I'm taking SMU. I like their firepower. They kept it close against Clemson. They started off horribly against Clemson, and then they showed they could fight back. I think that's kind of the gut punch they needed to remind them, hey, we are able to do this. Their two losses this year are both by 3 points now.
Hmm.
BYU early in the year, and then Clemson at the end of the year, of course. And I just do not trust Big Game James.
I
So
know. I was gonna
I'm
say that.
a little bit of a homer pick, a little bit, but I'm taking the Mustangs, and they're millions of dollars.
James Franklin is what scares me the most. It's not the players for Penn State. I mean, Tyler Warren has been the best tight end in football.
No.
And then you have, of course, all the firepower on offense, and then on defense, there's guys all over the place, top to bottom. So Abdul Carter is probably going to be the number one edge off the board. It's just I think those guys set it apart in this game. But we'll see how the other games go and how we pick them because I think that this next game. Oh, wrong side. Hold on. There we go. Texas and Clemson. I've seen more people pick Clemson than I actually have SMU when I've been looking at different like picks
Mhm.
and stuff, and I just think they don't believe in what Texas can do. Texas is one of the scariest teams in the college football playoff to me because if they're on, they're the best team in football, and if they're off, they can lose to anybody, aka Georgia. Keeping that game too close, should have won that game by 20 points, and they go out and lose in overtime. So, what do y'all got? What do y'all think on this game?
I'm taking Texas to win with fairly high confidence. I don't know that they'll cover the 11-point spread, mainly because their offense has had their struggles this year. I think their defense will do just fine containing Clemson, but I think they need to figure out some sort of better motion on offense to turn those drives they had, like against Georgia, from 3 points to 6 points and be able to take those leads and run away with the momentum they're building.
Cam?
Yeah, I'm also on the Texas side on this one. It might be one of my most confident first round games. Clemson finds a way to sneak in. Had an up and down into the year, but Texas, I just think, is too talented overall to, drop this game at least. I am very nervous about them underwhelming my expectations of them and how good they can be and how far they can go. But I don't think this is the game where they drop. But one thing I did want to point out, since we are from Texas and Texas high school football is a big deal around here, this is a rematch of Kate Klubnik versus Quentin Ewers in the 2021 state championship, where Westlake played and defeated South Lake Carroll, which was Kate Klubnik getting the dub, and Michael Taft, the safety for Texas, that has been a breakout star for them, was actually on the Westlake side. So hopefully he will be catching more passes, but from the other team this time, intercepting Kate Klubnik this time.
Yeah, Michael Taft and who's the big white defensive end y'all have? What's his name? I'm blanking, but he is also a Westlake chaparral that was in that game. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but yes, he was also there. Very exciting to see Cade come home. Quinn is from Dallas area, while Cade Klubnik is actually from the Austin area, right outside of
Mhm.
Austin, or in Austin. And then his brother actually, I played his brother in high school. So lots of long time big football around this area, and we're gonna see another big game in Austin on, I think this is the 21st. So big game here too. I'm also on the Texas side. I didn't say that, but yes, I am also picking Texas. So going to the next one though, Ohio State, Tennessee. This is actually the closest line game and the closest, I believe, by favorites. Minus 280 right now to Ohio State is the lowest of any of these teams, and I'm picking Ohio State to win this game. I think though Dylan Sampson did earn Offensive Player of the Year in the SEC. So don't think that there's no firepower on that Tennessee side of the ball. He did have 1,485 rushing yards, which is an insane number for anybody. He excites me, and then also I believe I'm expecting all of the draft eligible players to play because it is the playoffs. James Pierce is going to be the best pass rusher on the field, even knowing on the other side on Ohio State you have Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau. I think that James Pierce is the guy that kind of takes the cake. So if he can get after Will Howard, I think that becomes an issue.
Yeah, I think I'm on Ohio State's side on this one. They're just they're the one that has the most scrutiny on them, and I think it reflects in the bowl pick'em because 36% of the teams are or picks are going towards the Tennessee side, which is by far the closest, margin between all these first round matchups. But I just think that they're going to respond very well to the Michigan loss. Obviously, that was a very bad look, but there's a way to respond, and I think they're going to do it in this game at home.
So for this one, I'm on the Volunteer side.
Hmm.
Mainly because Ohio State's offense disappointed me more than I expected it to against Michigan. Just the lack of ability to beat a bad Michigan team at home in the rivalry game, the game they call it, and especially with how good you brought up Dylan Sampson has been running. I think he's going to have a big game. I think it hinges on Nico having a good game and not the average Nico we saw for the middle of the season. Towards the end of the year, he brought it back up and that got that offense going again. And then their defense was obviously stout all year, and Ohio State struggled against Michigan's defense. For all those reasons, I think Tennessee wins, but I don't think they'll plant a flag.
Fair. There's a lot of really good players and prospects on the Ohio State side. One of the guys, though, that I think I should probably bring up is Jeremiah Smith. He was actually receiver of the year in the Big Ten and freshman of the year. It's just, and then Caleb Downs is defensive back of the year. You just look across the board, they just have so much talent. I kind of have to side with the talent, and I think that's why I'm going with Ohio State more than anything. But they have let people down, as you did say. So I completely understand why you feel that way. Going on though, we are out of the first round of the playoffs, back to real bowls. First one up is the Myrtle Beach Bowl, Coastal Carolina and UTSA. The Roadrunners, I believe, let's see, have the Defensive Player of the Year from the conference. Yes, Jamori Robinson, who is the Defensive Player of the Year in the conference for them, and then Owen McCown is the starting quarterback for them. That is Josh McCown's son. They've been solid, and I think that them finishing this year off is going to be them beating Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, I'm also on the UTSA side, and it's just kind of a trend of how they finished the season. Coastal Carolina lost 5 of 7 by an average margin of 17.5 points, whereas UTSA won 4 of 6 to end the year, including a win against a ranked Memphis. So just kind of a tale of two finishes to the season, and that's why I'm going to ride with UTSA.
I am on the same page. I'm riding with UTSA, and for the same reason Cam is, just how they ended the year and the momentum they're coming into it with. Like he mentioned, they finished much better versus Coastal Carolina having those losses, and their last game was a loss at Army and only by 5 points, and we saw Army dominate their conference championship game, and UTSA almost pulled out an upset against them. So I think UTSA wins this one.
Yeah, I also wanted to mention because I didn't say it. Coastal Carolina's best player, Clev Lubin, is going to be transferring. He's transferring to Auburn. That is already decided. So without him, he had 9.5 sacks this year. By far their best player on defense. He is going to be gone. I think that also is a big hit for them. So I think that'll also sway me a little bit in the UTSA side. And I'm from Texas, so I guess I'll just support the home team here.
I will
Um,
say though, just as a disclaimer, I think this is the only one where of any non-college football playoff game that there is a home team that is hosting a bowl game. So Coastal Carolina, they are at home, so that's not really baking in the spread right now at -8. So that kind of makes me a little nervous. But yeah, UTSA, it sounds like we're all on the same page.
yeah. All right. Oh, this is a fun bowl. I really love the actual bowl symbol, the famous Idaho potato bowl. Really love that, how they made that. I think it's really cool. Looking at the two teams, though, you have Northern Illinois on one side. Northern Illinois just this year, uh, they almost took down Texas A&M. No, wait. I am
Yep.
tripping. Sorry. Wrong team. That's Bowling Green. They
Yes.
took down the Notre Dame
Hmm.
Fighting Irish, which was, one of the biggest upsets of the year. Of course, we just talked about Notre Dame a second ago with this game. If they would have won this game, they could have been the number one overall seed. Technically not true, but you know what I mean. They would have been the number one overall seed on the AP ranks. And you can see that, with that, they were able to springboard into a 7 winning season this year. So really excited about them. I am going to be picking them over Fresno State.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. One thing that did stick out to me when I was doing some research was that this is the biggest difference among all bowl games in terms of time of possession. So Northern Illinois was seventh in the nation, and Fresno State was actually 116th. So that's a more than a 5 minute difference average per game between the two. So I think in a close game, that's really gonna matter at the end of the day.
Yeah, in agreement. I'm taking Northern Illinois on this one. They've shown in big games they can win. The Notre Dame game, they did beat Bowling Green, who has been shown to be a pretty good team this year. The ones who were close with A&M. All of their losses have been close, overtime, one possession, one possession. Their only bad loss was Miami, Ohio by 11, and that was the only non-one possession one also. So I'm sticking with the Huskies as well.
Sure. I did want to also mention that Fresno State has six transfers on their team. Mikey Keene, the starting quarterback, is going to be transferring out, so they will be playing a backup quarterback. Not sure if that is going to affect them, but normally affects teams at this level. Mike Delana was the main pass catcher, so we'll see if he can bring it together though for them. Going on to the next game, we're gonna get to a super dog from earlier in the year. Very excited about the super dogs. San Jose State, lots to talk about with them. Of course, Nick Nash is just kidding, not was is one of those guys. He is top three. He's been top three all year in receiving yards per game. As you know, he's got 1,382 receiving yards on the year and 16 total touchdowns. He's just been electric, and he's one of the reasons I will be picking them to win this game.
Yeah, you said he's one of the reasons. He is the reason for me. He's so fun to watch. I think he'll have a big game. I think San Jose State's just a better team. South Florida's had a really weird year in terms of sometimes they look like they know what they're doing, and sometimes they look like they don't know what an offensive scheme is or have never
Right.
run one. And Nick Nash has looked like Nick Nash all year. So I'm going with San Jose State.
Yeah, and speaking of Nick Nash, he was actually became the fourth wide receiver in college football D1 history to win the Triple Crown. So
Mm-hmm.
he did end up winning the Triple Crown this year, which is a great feat. But this really comes down to San Jose State being a top five passing attack, and then their opponent South Florida being a bottom five defending the pass. So that's kind of really what stands out to me is in a close game. I think the weakness is too much for the strength of San Jose State.
Absolutely fair, completely agree. And I think we talked about this. This is the highest total on the whole bowl slate. This is the 62 and a half is the highest total of all the bowls. So this should be an absolute shootout. The other thing I did want to mention is geographically, South Florida all the way to Hawaii is a really tough journey.
Right.
While San Jose
A lot
State,
of time
that's just a
zones.
lot closer. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's some jet lag going all the way across the country like that. So I think that also helps me in my decision on San Jose State. Going over to the next game though, the Game Above Sports Bowl is going to be in Detroit. It's between the Toledo Rockets and the Pitt Panthers. And Pitt here, they lost five straight. And it's
Mm.
been a very tough outing for them recently. And I also know that their quarterback is now leaving, which Nate Yarnell, their backup quarterback, which was the backup to Eli Holstein, who started for them originally, they're both gone. Now, I'm going to mess this up. Defen Bach is his name, is going to be starting his first game. Um, and I'm not comfortable. If they're going to lean on anybody, they need to lean on running back Desmond Reed, who had 779 rushing yards, 564 receiving yards, and 8 touchdowns. He's the first team all-purpose player in the ACC. That is the guy they'll have to lean on. But I'm actually going to be picking against Pittsburgh. I'm going to be picking Toledo here, and I'm very excited about this pick. I think that this is going to be very different. Let me check the percentages actually.
It's very different.
91% Pittsburgh right now picks, while only 9% on the other side for Toledo. So,
Yeah. I think it's fun what you're doing here. I think you're having fun, and we're all having a good time. You're picking a game above. That's cool.
I
Awesome.
talked it into existence, Dustin. That's what
Yeah.
happened
I'm
here.
gonna I'm gonna go ahead and take Pitt, and That'll be that. I'm not that worried about this one. Even with the third string quarterback, I just think Pitt has a lot more talent than Toledo. Um, it's one of those things, especially when you come off five straight losses, shaking it up with the transfer portal and stuff. It can't get any worse. Maybe they'll improve because of it. I think they'll end up winning them.
Okay.
Yeah, initially, when I picked it, it was pretty high confidence, and then I'm like, oh yeah, five straight losses is really hard to just have a ton of confidence in beating another 7-5 team. But I am going to go with Pitt in this one. Not as confident as I thought I would be, but 91% of the field is currently on Pitt, which I think is too wide.
Yes, and I'm getting a little bit of value there, hopefully, on my side. Moving over from craziness to probably more craziness. Who's on this next game here? Oh, Kansas State Rutgers. I'm gonna let someone else go on this one. I want to hear what y'all have to say first. Go
I
ahead,
mean,
Dustin, or
yeah,
whoever.
you go ahead, Dusty.
I'll say I'll take it. So yeah, Kansas State against Rutgers. Talking about the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. We're in Phoenix, Arizona. So a little bit of a trip for both teams, much more of a trip for Rutgers. Um, I'll go ahead and give my take. I'm riding with Avery Johnson and Kansas State. They disappointed a little bit throughout the year. They looked pretty good at some points throughout the year. That big loss to Houston is pretty terrible, but they did beat powerhouse Kansas, so there's that. I'm going to go with Kansas State on this one. Rutgers was fun to watch at the beginning of the year, but then they fizzled out to the average Rutgers we've seen over the last 20 years, basically.
Yeah, I'm also siding with Kansas State, kind of similar to the field, which 89% of the picks are currently on Kansas State. They did drop 3 or 4 to end the year. Wasn't a great look because they were in prime position to be in the Big 12 title game. But yeah, I'm gonna just ride with them. Don't have as much confidence in this one though.
Well, I'm glad you don't have much confidence. I think that one big thing here is both of the running backs in this game are possible draft prospects and
Mhm.
could sit. Kyle Monangai on the Rutgers sides, and then DJ Giddens on the other side. Kyle Monangai was first team in the Big Ten, which is a really big feat because there are so many good running backs over there in the Big Ten. And then DJ Giddens was second team in the Big 12, both amassing almost 1,300 yards. I'm actually picking Rutgers, and it's going to be one of those picks where I wait till the day of if I want to switch it to Kansas State, just depending on if everybody plays. Because
Yeah.
I think my thing is if Kyle Monangai doesn't play, there's no way I'm picking Rutgers. But if he does play, I think I can. I'm going to pick Rutgers to win this game and come out with a dub. So that's my only. It's kind of like I'm hanging a little bit there. I'm
Yeah.
picking both sides, which is cheating, but it is what it is.
It's not necessarily cheating, especially in college football, because a lot of times we don't know with the transfer portal and then draft who's playing and who's not. There's a lot of picks that will sway one way or the other, depending on, especially like from the quarterback perspective, even though we're not high on the draft class in general. But if Shadur doesn't play, Colorado, it's a lot less confident in the pick, or similar to Cam Ward in Miami, or et cetera, and so on. So there's certain teams that just have so many guys on the fence that you kind of do have to play wait and see, which is great. Why this contest, you're able to switch your pick back and forth until the actual kickoff. So just because we do pick every single game on this video, that doesn't mean we are going to entirely stick with it, depending on once we get more information.
For sure. So two Kansas State picks and a Rutgers pick in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. Cam, you get to do the 68 Ventures Bowl. Oh, lucky you. I know a guy
Yeah,
that's in that game.
I mean, this one, it's just I ended up going against Arkansas State in this one. They have the worst total defense of any bowl eligible team with 460.7 yards per game allowed. So I just don't love picking with bad defenses, and so I'm gonna rock with Bowling Green because of that.
Yeah, so this is the time when we get to enjoy Maction and some
Mhm.
mid-major football. Um, Emery, do you have an update on Fannin Jr.? Is he playing?
He is not. He has not decided yet. He
Okay.
is. He has not been decided. So
So that's the tight end for Bowling Green that we've talked about and being one of the top tight ends in this class. Even still, I'm taking Bowling Green mainly because they're battle tested. They've lost to both Penn State and A&M by one score, and both of those were on the road. They just I think they'll be more prepared because of that, with or without Harold Fannin Jr. If he plays, my confidence goes up on it. But either way, I would take Bowling Green.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. Harold Fannin just makes it better if he does play.
Hmm.
And I'm not sure that he will, but if you just look at power rankings alone, 78th versus 115th, that's a little bit telling of what they think of this in this game. I'm Of course, I think Arkansas State might have been the sixth best team in the Sun Belt, which is not saying much, if you know what I mean. So I will be siding with Bowling Green, and the Offensive Player of the Year in the MAC this year was Harold Fannin Jr., who had 1,342 yards from the tight end position, only behind San Jose State, Nick Nash. So very interesting if to see if he plays, but I still take that team. In the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl between Oklahoma and Navy. Oklahoma is something we really have to dig into here because they just don't have anybody playing. No one wants to play for them. Ton of transfers, and then not just transfers from positions of that aren't that important or that aren't necessarily talked about that much, but big players are transferring out. Jackson Arnold's gone. I don't know if he where he's going yet. I think Mississippi State is his first pick right now, and then Nick Anderson has just now decided to transfer out, so he'll be gone. They also have on defense some of the guys that they have in the back end, Billy Bauman Jr., and then of course Danny Stutzman. They might not play because they're going to the draft. So we could have a completely different thing come the game day for this game. So I'm actually am still picking Oklahoma at this point. They are -8.5 favorites, but when it comes to game day, this might change just because of availability in general.
Mhm. Yeah, I absolutely would not touch this spread at 8.5 whatsoever. But this is the worst Oklahoma team that I can remember, at least in our lifetime. They just had a lot going wrong. There was certain points of the season where they were down their top five receivers and just could not move the ball. And then on top of that, true freshman quarterbacks that they just had a lot go wrong this year for this team. So if they have even more people opt out in addition to all that, it's really hard to not side with Navy. Right now, I would go with Oklahoma, but just don't feel entirely confident about it.
Yeah, I'm actually taking Navy on this one. We saw what happened when Oklahoma played Texas, who's obviously much better than Navy is. But with having their top five wide receivers out, they had absolutely zero offense aside from a few big broken plays. Right now, I know you mentioned Nick Anderson for Oklahoma. They also have Andrell Anthony and Jaleel Farouk, who are two more receivers on the team in the transfer portal. And that's just so far. So I'm going with Navy and purely off of availability. And also, like you said, Jackson Arnold right now predicted to go to Mississippi State. But
Right.
either way, will not be playing. So, yeah, just a
One
team that, yeah, like Cam said, worst Oklahoma team I've ever seen in my lifetime. And just weird things happening all year to them.
one thing I will say about the Navy and then Army when we talk about them, they will not have opt-outs. They will
Right.
not have anything like that. So we know those teams are going to be fully put together.
Hmm.
And like I said, this pick might switch just because of availability like you want, and then comfortability more so than anything for me. If I just can't decide to play Oklahoma without any of their players, that is the worst Oklahoma we've seen. I understand picking Navy in this situation, so I completely get it. Glad it's the Armed Forces Bowl here for Navy. But going over to the next game, this one is going to be awesome. This is going to be an
Hmm.
awesome freaking game. The Birmingham Bowl in Birmingham, Alabama. Georgia, I believe, is actually the closer team, but both of them are probably within 80 miles of that is how far Vanderbilt is from this stadium. So it's going to be a close game for both of them. Both teams, in my personal opinion, have done better than expected. Vanderbilt getting to 6 wins is awesome. I don't think we've seen that in a while. They also had a top 25 once this year, with one of the hardest strength of schedules in all of college football. So, and Georgia Tech on this other side, of course, had a similar strength of schedule. If Haynes King is playing, you always have a chance. And me and Dustin have talked about that, I think, 3 times this year now. Haynes King was questionable and then played the game. And during our video, we were like, well, if he plays, it's a completely different story. We were picking as if he wasn't playing, but if he did play, we had changed our pick a little bit, and then he did play, and I believe that was Georgia, of course, this recent game against Georgia, and then who was before that?
Miami. I said
Miami,
they would
that's
beat
right, yeah,
Miami if Haynes King
Miami,
played.
and they did. So I'm actually going to be picking Georgia Tech. I'm agreeing with this 67%, but this game is going to be awesome. This instant classic right here.
Yeah, I think it's a fun one that both of these teams kind of played spoiler a little bit this year. Vanderbilt obviously knocked off Bama when they were number one and had a hand in why we don't have to talk about them in the playoff this year. And Georgia, like you said, they knocked Miami out of the playoff a couple weeks ago, and almost knocked out Georgia if it weren't for an overtime close finish. I believe it went to 4 overtimes, if I'm not mistaken.
Eight,
Um, eight. Oh,
Eight.
eight
yeah, even more.
overtimes.
I'm thinking of the
Overtimes.
wrong game. But yeah, it was. They finished the year really, really strong, and Vanderbilt obviously tough opponent. So no harm, no foul. But they did lose 3 straight. So I'm gonna side with Georgia Tech for how they finished the year.
Yeah, this is my favorite game of all of bowl season. So,
Hell yeah.
the absolute battle of the nerds. I was trying to find the cumulative GPAs for each team, but Vanderbilt doesn't release theirs. Georgia Tech's was above a 3.0 for the entire team. So, yeah, and then I've said pretty much every week on our recaps how much I love Haynes King as just an absolute gamer out there. This one I could really see going either way, but with a healthy Haynes King, I'm going to stick with the Yellow Jackets and Georgia Tech.
Perfect. I think so. That's 3 for 3 on Georgia Tech. That means that Vandy's going to win this game, of course, because that's just how it works around here. But
Probably so.
you know, going to the next game though, we got the AutoZone Liberty Bowl in Memphis, Tennessee. Arkansas going up against Texas Tech. Very closely lined game. The picks are currently though 69% to Texas Tech, which I find very interesting. They are the underdog, and they are traveling farther and all the things. They are also lower in the power rankings. They're just liked more. Arkansas's just hated, but they shouldn't be because Taylor Green's good, and if Jaquindon Jackson plays and Andrew Armstrong, all those guys are really good offensive players.
Yep.
I think there's more firepower on the Arkansas side, and I'm gonna be picking Arkansas to win this game.
For me on this one, it's a wait till to see who's playing or not.
Fair.
If Arkansas has their pieces, if Jaquindon Jackson plays and Andrew Armstrong, the two you mentioned, I'm kind of solely watching for them two. If they're both playing, I'm going to take Arkansas on this one. And then not to mention Landon Jackson on the
Right.
defensive side. He used to get clowned on for that video from back in high school when he looked goofy in one highlight from a camp or whatever. And then
Yeah.
now he's absolutely dominating SEC quarterbacks. So I've been on Arkansas's side, and I think Bobby Petrino will come out, and this is going to be an absolute shootout. Expect no defense from either team. It's going to be really fun, but I think Arkansas will pull away.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, going with Arkansas here. Texas Tech has actually allowed the second most passing yards in the entire nation this year and 34.5 points per game. Both of those are worst among all bowl teams. So again, I don't like betting on bad defenses, so I'm going to side with Arkansas on this one.
All right. Taylor Green. One thing that really sticks out is the strength of schedule between these two teams. One is more tested than the other, being the Big 12 versus the SEC. And let's go Arkansas, 3 for 3. Woo pig suey, baby. Going on to the next game, DirecTV Holiday Bowl in San Diego, California. This game is actually the second highest total on the slate. This is one of my favorite games. I really enjoy Syracuse. Tons of options at receiver. Kyle McCord, it had 4,326 passing yards this year, just an insane number. And I think that they can get it done. I think that they're going to have too much offense for Washington State to keep up coming out of the Pac-12.
Yeah, back-to-back shootouts. This one was 61.5 point total, so it's really close to rivaling or flipping to being the highest total on the entire bowl slate. But Kyle McCord led the nation in passing, like you mentioned, and Washington State is 118th against the pass this year. So I'm going to rock with Kyle McCord and Syracuse Orange for this one.
I am also on that side. Syracuse coming off a big win against Miami to close out their year. At the beginning of the year, they had a lot of hype because they were getting a bunch of transfers in and new coach. Took a while for them to put it together, but they have towards the end of the year, and I'm on the Syracuse train as well.
Yeah, I think this game was going to be one of the most fun games to watch. It don't know if it's as good as Georgia Tech versus Vandy, but
It's
definitely
not.
going to be a.
It's not.
It's okay. Definitely going to be a good one.
The other thing to add there is I believe Washington State's quarterback is expected to transfer, John
John.
Mateer. I
Okay.
know a lot of Oklahoma fans are really wanting him to go there. I don't know if there's rumors from their fans and insiders, but I don't foresee him playing in it either.
Okay. Good to know. I did not know if he was going to be a part of the team. That was actually one of the biggest pieces of information in this game that we were looking
Um,
for. You get the next game though, Dustin. You get to talk to us about this one right here, and you get to start it off.
well, it's in Vegas. That's about all you need to know about how this one's going to go. I mean, so A&M is going to be very different from their bowl game last year in terms of last year we were the team that the whole team transferred. Basically, we had third and fourth stringers playing the entire game. And then this year, it's the exact opposite. A lot of our new guys are staying, or we have underclassmen that are playing. I expect A&M to win this one solely because of the fact most of the team is still going to be there. Key names that won't be Nick Scorton. I highly doubt he plays. He's a first round draft pick by most boards. I don't see why he would jeopardize that. And then I think Shamar Stewart will probably sit out too to prepare for the draft, but I haven't
Yeah,
heard anything yet.
both of them did declare, so I'd expect them to
Yeah.
stay out for sure. Go ahead, Cam.
Uh, I mean, I'm gonna rock with A&M in this one, but I don't love the fact that it's 90-10 split based on how people are going. I just don't think A&M is good enough to have that much in a 3-point game in a 3-point spread. And then they also do have to travel further for this game, so go with A&M, sure, gig 'em, but you know, I'm on Dusty. I'm just rooting for Dusty at this point. Yeah,
I'm also. I'm
sips on
also.
sips on A&M.
I'm also going to be on the A&M side. They just played, in they've played better against better teams this year. USC had some situations with their quarterback issues. Miller Moss is off the team and transferring. I
Right.
don't know where he's going to go. We haven't gotten a word on that. But if we do have any, thing to talk about from this USC side, Woody Marks has looked really good this year. He had 1,133 rushing yards this year, so he's been really good. He's been their best player and kind of the bright spot. Their defense has been below average, and I know it's 44th on there, but that's pretty much below average in the Power Four. And so I'm going to be siding with A&M also. I just think they're too good, and they're too big. Their defense and their defensive line's too good if they do play most of them at least. So and then going over to the next game, the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. I believe this one is at Fenway Park in Boston, so that'll be a pretty cool game. There is also one at the Yankees Stadium, so we'll talk about that one in a minute. But UConn and North Carolina. North Carolina's got some situations with their coaching. They did get rid of Mac Brown. Mac Brown is not even going to be at the game, I don't believe, or on the sideline.
Mm-mm.
Bill Belichick is now the presumable head coach at this point. Really, the biggest players in this game too probably will not be playing. And Omarion Hampton is that guy that we talk about, 1,660 rushing yards. He was first team all conference running back and second team all conference all purpose player. So just without him and all that, I still think they're too good to lose to UConn. And UConn did have a really good year, but I just don't know that I can pick UConn to beat North Carolina, and which scares me because I do know that the percentages are 67% to North Carolina. I think it should be closer to 50-50, but I will be siding with North Carolina in this game.
I am full disclosure straight up picking this game based on Omarion Hampton's status.
Fair.
He was second in the nation in all-purpose yards with over 1,600, and he is one of my favorite running backs in this entire draft class in a very, very strong draft. So if he is not playing, I am not siding at all with UNC, who had a really frustrating year. UConn at least won 7 of 9 to close the season and had a quality loss to Syracuse in that stretch. So that's, to be honest, that's how I'm siding this game. And so if I get leverage on the field because people are just going to side with the favorite, so be it.
Completely fair.
Yeah, I'm actually taking UConn also on this one,
Okay.
primarily due to Omarion Hampton not going to be playing more than likely, and then with the whole staff turnover and the team just never looked like they really had it going. Um, and then to end the year, losing to Boston College and then NC State. Like Cam said, UConn kept it close to Syracuse. They beat a powerhouse in Massachusetts. Clearly being sarcastic there, but I don't know. It feels like one where UConn has been like for years the team that everyone makes fun of and never did anything, and then now they have a chance to finish the season with 9 wins and win a bowl game. So I'm going to take UConn.
Fair enough. Um, that game is actually a 54.5 total. That it's a pretty closely lined game, and that's why I'm not comfortable with the 33% to UConn.
Mhm.
That's just a little bit too wide in my opinion. But going to the next game, we do have, and I'm going to let you grab this one, Dustin, because I want you to talk about the transfers on the Nebraska side. I don't have all of them in front of me.
Sure, let me get those pulled up. So we've got Boston College and Nebraska, and this is that one you're talking about, the Pinstripe Bowl. So this is going to be at Yankee Stadium.
Yes, yes, and I know that it's
Um,
mostly edges that are transferring out of Nebraska at this point.
yeah,
All their
I'll get
edges are
them.
just leaving.
So they've got a lot of, yeah, basically their entire defensive line, I thought,
Hmm.
is preparing to leave. I will get that pulled up. Cam, if you want to give your pick on it while I get these pulled up.
Yeah, I actually am shocked that I have a ton of leverage on the field, but I'm going with Boston College in this one. They ended the year winning 3 of 4 and averaged 35 points a game. Nebraska lost 5 of 6 to end the year, and they only scored 20 points one time in that stretch. I think the wrong team is favored in this one, especially if you're considering Nebraska possibly having even more transfers and
Hmm.
or people opting out of this game. Uh, Boston College is the team I'm siding with. And I don't feel that risky doing that, picking a
Right.
dog like that.
I'm actually also picking Boston College. I know that Uman Mumelin is leaving, and then James Williams, who are two of their top pass rushers. On the other side, Boston College actually has the by far best pass rusher in this game, and Donovan Ezaraku. If he does play, he had 16 and a half sacks this year. He was the defensive player of the year in the ACC. He's just been amazing. I'm not sure if he'll play because he might go to the draft, and I will not, nothing wrong with that. And I do know that their starting quarterback, though, in Boston College, Thomas Castellanos, is transferring to Florida State. So we're going to try another running, passing quarterback over there in Florida State. But I will be picking Boston College in that game.
So looking at On3's transfer portal, I counted 4 edges and then 3 other defensive linemen. So Prince
Damn.
Will being the big one. Looks
Yes.
like I think they're predicting he's going to Ole Miss. And then you did mention James Williams. Right now he's predicted to go to Florida State as well,
Oh, perfect.
along with Thomas Kestner. I figured you'd be happy to hear that.
Yeah, he has five.
Um,
I think he has the most sacks on the team.
yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, so with
All
all
that
that said, why the hell is Nebraska 72% picked?
I was
I
about to
have
say,
no
all that
idea.
said, I'm also taking Boston College for the same
Right.
reason, because everybody good left. So
Exactly. I don't understand.
they
It's
do
just
have baby Mahomes, but
right.
I'm going to go with Boston College, and I think he throws at least 2 picks
That's fair. And
on the
look at the
board.
turnover margin. Look at the turnover margin. One of the best in the country,
Oh,
69th in the country. So,
nice.
yeah,
Whoop, whoop.
we will be sitting on the Boston College side, and hopefully everybody else is wrong, and we are right. Going to the next game, I thought 12 and a half was a lot, guys. I'll just be very honest about that. Um, it's TCU as the favorite against the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana. Louisiana did lose their bowl game to the Sun Belt champion Marshall Thunder and Herd, who Dustin did pick and we did not, but that's okay. 10-3 year, very good year. We actually did watch Louisiana play this year. Me and Cam did at the Texas State game, which was a very fun. Very good in the turnover margin, good offensively. Some players, that we can talk about. Ben Woodridge is the offensive player of the year in the Sun Belt, and then they have a linebacker Casey Osai who was had 110 tackles this year at first. So they have some players. It's just, do they have enough players to stop Josh Hoover and Jack Beck? I don't think so. And so I will be picking TCU I really wanted to pick the Raging Cajuns here. I really did, but I just don't think I can do it in this situation.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Going with TCU in this one, but 12 and a half just way too much. I didn't really come across anything while doing research that made it seem like, oh, I can confidently put, a minus 10 plus point favorite as one of my most confident picks. I feel like
Hmm.
most people will do that. 84% of the field is on TCU, but I think I will just reluctantly go with one of our many home teams from the state of Texas.
Yeah, I agree. I'm on TCU as well. Hoover's looked really good. They've won 4 of their last 5. Their losses are to much better teams than the Raging Cajuns' losses. So I'm taking TCU as well.
Perfect. Then going over to the next game, we have a game of Miami losing to I'm sorry, Syracuse right before the championship game kicked them out, so they did not get to play in the conference championship game that kept them out of the playoffs, and then Iowa State losing to Arizona State in the conference championship game. Um, I'm not sure if Iowa State's quarterback Roccobeck's going to play. That is something that's still up in the air because he was injured. But they do have some really good players, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. Jaden Higgins was second team all wide receiver. Jalen Noel was first team returner and honorable mention wide receiver. So both of those guys are super explosive. I expect them to both play. On the other side, you have Cam Ward, who I do not expect to play, was the player of the year in the ACC. And then Xavier Restrepo, the best receiver for them. I don't expect either of those guys to play. They're going to be getting ready for the draft. So I think that overall that offensive efficiency of first is actually going to be lower, obviously, without those two guys. And I'm actually picking Iowa State to win this game with very low confidence.
Yeah, it's funny just looking back just a month ago where both of these teams were in the top 10 and clear favorites to win their respective conferences, and now neither of them in the playoff outright. It's definitely a disappointing end for both teams. Obviously, Iowa State, we didn't expect to be that close to making it all the way, but Miami was at the top the whole year, and we were just waiting on them to fall because they just had many near misses. Obviously, Super Dogs just almost beating them outright and all that good stuff. But, this is probably my toughest game on the entire slate. I don't know if it's the game to most look forward to because of that, but right now, I believe I'm going to side with Miami. No, actually, I'm sorry. I'm going with Iowa State, like him said, because I'm projecting, Iowa State, most of their core guys to play, and Miami to not. That's just kind of a guess and a gamble. But if Cam Ward does play, like I said, that does change the game a lot in this one.
Yeah, I'm kind of if Cam Ward and Restrepo play, or even just Cam Ward plays, I'm taking Miami.
No, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Iowa State did just sign Matt Campbell to an extension through 2032, and I think there's a lot to be said for confidence going into these bowl games. Will I have my team next year? Will my for the players? Will I still have my coach around next year, or moving forward? To be able to know that your coach is there, staying put, has control of the team. Um, I think this will be a fun game, whether the guys we talked about play or not. But basically, I'm just going to wait till the announcement. If Cam Ward and Restrepo don't play, I'm taking Iowa State. If they do play, then Miami.
I will say I'm very much looking forward to the return of another viral Pop-Tart clip post game because that was probably the highlight of last year's bowl season was that that mascot going through the toaster and getting eaten up. That
Hmm.
was very very entertaining.
Absolutely. Going on to the next game. Oh, I gotta go here and click. Sorry. Uh, Miami, Ohio, and Colorado State. I think that this line is ridiculous. First off, I have no notes that are any good for Colorado State. I am just not a fan of this Colorado State team. 101st power ranked. They have 8 wins and they're 101st. It tells you a lot about how good that ESPN thinks they are. I'm just really off of them. I will say though, on the other side, Brett Gabbert for Miami of Ohio was the first team quarterback, but Javon Tracy, the best receiver on the team, is now transferring out, so he will be gone. That hurts them a little bit. But I still have to side with Miami, Ohio. I just don't really have any good feels coming from the Colorado State side of it. So
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I'm on Miami, Ohio being a favorite, and only 31% of the field being on them. I just think that both of these are bad offenses. Miami is a better defense from just a straight up numbers perspective, but it's close, it's ugly. It's not a game that I'm excited about, but at least Snoop Dogg is going to be there.
yes,
So for this one, I'm taking Colorado State, and it's mainly because Miami just got smacked by Ohio, which I said would happen, and I
Make
think
us feel even
Colorado's.
worse.
Um, also, we've talked about it a bit earlier, but the distance people have to travel. Going from Ohio down to Arizona is very different from going from Colorado down to Arizona. I just think Colorado State will be able to win. I think this is going to be an ugly game. I think this one could be sicko game of the entire bowl season. We'll see though.
Tico game of the season, of the bowl season. I actually completely agree with that. Now that I think about it, there are some other ones that we'll talk about. This game, just for even added sicko, is going to be on the CW network. So if you want to watch it,
Hmm.
it's on CW. So I haven't watched that since cartoons came on the weekends when I was little. So that'll tell you a lot about. I'm not that old, but tells you a lot about how much they actually think of this game. Snoop Dogg could not even put it on Fox. That's how bad it is. Going over to the next game, though, it is the Go Bowling Military Bowl between East Carolina and NC State. Oh, guys, this was actually a really hard game for me to pick. I know it says -5. It doesn't make me feel any better about picking it. There's just not a lot of stuff going on for NC State, but I think they're the better team. And so, and I know that the best player for East Carolina is out. He is Siobhan Rebel Jr. He'll be going to the draft. He tore his ACL about 5 weeks ago or something. I guess I have to side with NC State, but I am not confident at all in this game. And yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, no confident picking North Carolina State. That's just kind of how it is. With this one, I'm surprised they didn't put them in a bowl game that just is in one of the Carolinas, just to have both of them be close enough to where you can maximize the gate and all that good stuff. But yeah,
Right.
I don't know. NC State, sure. Go ahead. Go Wolfpack.
I'm taking NC State in this one.
Do
They
you have a
lost to.
reason? Do you have a good
Yeah,
reason?
because we don't
We
have.
don't have good
Do you-
reasons.
If you would not interrupt me,
Sorry,
you'll
sorry.
hear
Apologies,
said
apologies.
reason.
Uh,
They finished the year on the road, winning their rivalry game against North Carolina. And the game before that, they lost by only one to Georgia Tech, also on the road, who we see has had a pretty good end of the year. I think they've just played better matchups, similar records, much better power ranking. I think they'll just be much more prepared for the game than East Carolina will be.
okay, fair enough. Better than
Is
my
that a,
reasoning,
is that a good enough reason for you, Emery?
but better than mine. Hey, I was not the only one. Hold on a second. But yeah, I guess we can get past this game because this also feels sicko and it's a 58.5 point total. So not that sicko, but it should be pretty tough to
Well,
pick a
I was
side.
telling you before we started recording, I did not want to pick this game because of how bad it's going to be.
I mean, 77% on the North Carolina State side.
Yeah,
I almost feel like just flipping over to East Carolina
Just
to get the
'cause.
leverage because
Yeah.
like I just don't like it.
yeah.
But can't do it. We're gonna stay with North Carolina State and hope that they can figure it out. Going on to the next game. This is actually a good game. I have heard talks that Dion has told reporters that Shadur will be playing, Travis Hunter will be playing. If those guys play, I think you have to pick BYU, right? No, come on, we're picking BYU, right? I think that I am going to pick BYU either way. I'm more on the BYU side. Their defense has been really good this year, and they can slow down teams. They play close games. Colorado loses, in some close games this year. And how about the only Big 12 matchup, only in conference matchup um, in the whole bowl season. So give me BYU to win this game no matter who plays, and I would expect actually one of those guys to sit. I do not expect Travis Hunter to play.
I am in agreement with you. I'm picking BYU no matter what. Not a strong, confident play, but it's a fun game. But I think BYU overall was better the entire season. Colorado caught some breaks scheduling wise.
Hmm.
Obviously, you see the discrepancy in the strength of schedule, but BYU is should be favored in this game. I don't know why they're not, but let's just ride it out with them one last time.
Yeah, I'm also taking BYU in this one. I've heard mixed
No
things on
way.
if what is that a problem?
No, I just can't believe we're all picking BYU to win.
The thing
Especially
is,
if that's crazy to me. Go
Deion
us.
Sanders had a great NFL career. He's not going to jeopardize his son and Travis Hunter, who he basically sees as another son. I don't think he'll jeopardize their potential in the NFL. I think he'll have some sort of limited game plan going on. Um,
Right.
and I think BYU is just the better team, anyways, even if they don't do all of that. Um, so I'm just taking BYU in this one.
Hey, go us. I can't believe we all picked BYU to win this game. Only Big 12, only, like I said, game that is going to be within conference. One thing I do want to say so that I can give some love to these guys. Travis Hunter, Defense Player of the Year in the conference, and then Shedeur Sanders, Offense Player of the Year in the conference. Travis Hunter is going to be at the Heisman voting. I'd expect him to win. I think he's like minus 400 right now. So,
Yeah.
not my pick, but I expect him to win the Heisman because he has been electric this year. The next game is actually a lot of fun. Um, but I hate the spread. I think the spread is a little ridiculous. The Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl, Shreveport, Louisiana. Army, I believe, is in New York. Correct? Someone correct me on
I
that.
think we
Believe it's in New York, right?
Yeah,
I
they're
think
in
we
West
brought that
Point.
up a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I don't actually know where Marshall is. I'm guessing East Coast, but both teams I know are cold teams, so they're gonna have to travel.
West Virginia.
West Virginia. Okay, travel a little bit. I just I want to pick Marshall so bad. Mike
Do
Green.
it. Do
No,
it.
I can't do it. Mike Green though is the best player in this game, and I know Bryson Daly is going to be in this game. Mike Green is the best player in this game. He was the player of the year, not defense player of the year, the player of the year in the Sun Belt, and he plays on the defensive side of the ball. He had 17 sacks, 81 total tackles. I don't know if he'll play in this game because he will be a draft prospect. He will possibly be a early second, late first round type of guy. He's very, very good. Um, I just can't do it. I think Army is going to win this game. I think they have too much power. That triple option is going to get to them, and offensive efficiency. You can see that number there, the 11th overall offensive efficiency. That is what puts them ahead. They can kind of take Mike Green out of the game by reading him or going away from him, and that's what they'll probably do. So
Yeah, I'm on Army side as well. Obviously, is always one of the leading in the nation running the football, but over 300 yards a game. Marshall is 101st ranked across the nation defending the run. So it's just a clash of good versus bad. And I'm just going to say if Army is in control of this game, which, time of possession wise, they're also number one in the entire nation. So if the game goes the way that they want it to, I think they just find an easy way to cruise.
So I have to break one of my own rules here that I told Emery that I always pick the team with the mascot if it doesn't end with an S. Marshall, the Thundering Herd. I want to do it, but I can't. I think Army will. I think Army will win this one. And you brought up the defensive stud for Marshall. I think with the triple option, you almost take out his importance just
right.
because the movement and the literal, I don't know the better vocab, so the options that it presents just kind of eliminates the power of one person versus the totality of a defense.
Right. And I think that that's the problem here. Unfortunately, he has been so good. He might not play in this game because it might make him look bad. Honestly, because this
Right.
game is set up to not help defensive ends out. Obviously, they're a read normally. So, yeah, I'll be on the Army side. And it sounds like we're 3 for 3. Makes sense. They're minus 14, and they are currently, if they're not the highest picked team, they're 94%
Yeah, that's
right
tied
now.
for
Yeah.
the highest at the very moment.
Okay, yeah, that's insane. So I'd love to get away from the field on this one, but I cannot. I have to go with Army in this game. But the next game, I think, might be split. So Looking at this game, we are going to be picking Iowa versus Missouri in the Trans Perfect Music City Bowl. I think, and I want to preface this: Caleb Johnson, running back of the year in the Big Ten. I don't know if he will play. So I expect him to play, but I don't know if he will. And then looking at it, Jay Higgins was the linebacker of the year. Cade McNamara is going to be transferring, so at least we don't have to watch him play. And we're going to
Usually
get
quarterbacks transferring is not a good thing, but
yeah.
you know.
This is the one time it's okay.
The
I
Times Republic says that Caleb Johnson's already been declared out
okay. Well
for the
then,
game. I'm going to see if
tells
I can
us
find another source, but
tells me that I'm comfortable with my pick then in Missouri.
Well, that is good information. Obviously, Caleb Johnson being out is a huge deal because he was one of the best running backs in the entire country this year. With, again, like I said, one of the strongest running back classes in recent memory in terms of NFL prospects. So if he is out, and then there's also potentially guys sitting for Iowa's really always good defense, I think Missouri just has too much offense to keep up with.
yeah, I'm on the Missouri side on this one. Honestly, even if Caleb Johnson was playing, I'd probably still take Missouri just because of their firepower and my lack of trust in Iowa. But I am, I'm on Team Missouri on this one.
Perfect. I think we all agree. Just because of, and I don't know that Jay Higgins will play, and I don't know that, I'm sorry, Sebastian Castro will play, some of those things. So I wonder if that has anything to do with all these numbers too, because I thought Missouri would actually be more favored if I knew that Caleb Johnson was out. I know that this game will be low scoring, but I think Missouri with Iowa without their players cannot keep up with Missouri. I'm sure Luther Burden will probably also be out. I don't know that he'll play. And so that'll also be something we'll be looking for. I don't know if that has come out yet either. Going on to the next game though. Yeah, this is a joke, guys. Why is this a game? I know why it's a game, but why is this a game?
Are we just going to throw out our teams? Because I'm ready to throw out my team if you're ready.
Go ahead.
Bama.
Bama.
Yeah, all the Michigan's good players are probably going to not play, so I don't.
Yeah.
This won't be competitive.
I don't understand this game one bit. This is actually probably my most confident game, even if Jalen Milroe doesn't play, because of the fact that Michigan's not good. And the only reason this game is being made is because it's a rematch of last year. They want to make money, and they think these two teams make money. But this isn't a fun game. This is my sicko game right here. This is one of my sicko games for sure. This is ridiculous to put these two teams together, in my personal opinion. So
I'm actually shocked that this wasn't the most popular pick game, because not only the popularity of Alabama, but just the one-sidedness of Alabama just being the much more talented team, also being the first team left out of the playoffs, so they're pissed off as well.
Right.
So yeah, only 89%. I know that only 89, just like that seems a little far-fetched, but I mean, if I'm just going to be able to easily take out 11%, I'm just going to ride with that.
For sure.
Yep.
And then that was a quick one. So going to the next game. Tony the Tiger, Sun Bowl. I love this emblem for this game.
Is that a first time with that sponsor?
I have no idea, but I
don't remember
love
Tony
it.
the Tiger game.
I've never heard of this one.
I love it.
I'm all for it. I love me some Frosted Flakes.
Right.
Me too. El Paso, Texas. So not close to home. We can act like it is, but it's a long way from here. We're in Central Texas. That is 9 hours away. So all the way out in El Paso. But Louisville versus Washington. Louisville has some big games on their resume, looking at, beating Clemson by 12 points this year. Power ranking is 12th. I actually thought that Louisville was going to earn a better game than Washington. I cannot believe that the spread is -2.5. One of my favorite spreads on the board to take Louisville -2.5 here. I think they have too much firepower. I mean, their running backs, Isaac Brown is the rookie of the year in the conference in the ACC. He had 7.3 yards per rush. He was by far the most electric player on this team. Dude is just an absolute stud. Will be someone we talk about for a long time. And then on offense, I don't know if Ja'Cory Brooks will play, and then on defense, I don't know if Ashton Gillette will play or Quincy Riley, but it won't matter. I think they're too good for Washington.
Yeah, Louisville, there's not really much. I'm honestly, like you said, surprised 2.5. It just seemed like there was like, what are we missing? Why is it this close? I mean, they're even closer, all that good stuff. Yeah, I don't know what argument you would have for Washington in this game.
I'm taking Louisville at a high confidence on this one. Something to note: both starting quarterbacks are opting out. So Will
Yeah.
Rogers and Tyler Shuff are both out. Shuff.
Shuff.
One quick question I did have for you guys. Do you think it's a bad thing for the sport? I know it's in a transition with all the new first year playoff and all that stuff, but Washington and Michigan having as bad of seasons as they did after just meeting in the championship, is that a bad thing for the sport?
I'll go first and say, from a purely fan perspective, not from a player's perspective, I love it. And partially because my team has been perennially bad, it gives me hope that maybe we won't be perennially bad. And one day we'll be one of those good ones, even if it's for a short while. Plus, it is fun. Like, if someone had told me 5 years ago SMU would be in a playoff and Michigan would be scraping to get into a bowl game, then I'd be like, whoa, that's super cool, and not at all what I would expect from the last 5 years of what I've seen.
So for me, I think that obviously NIL and the transfer portal are huge things and they happened at the same exact time. They worry me because they're not regulated enough at this point in football itself. So I think that those things will have to be fixed. We're going to find issues kind of like Matthew Sluka, where that whole thing happened and he redshirted, left the team mid-year because he wasn't making enough NIL money. We're going to see other things happen. I think that that is bad for the sport. Think about this: four teams out of the top six from last year did not make the playoffs this year. Three of those teams, well, sorry, two of those teams barely made it above 500. One of those teams has one win and is considered the worst team in the NCAA in Florida State. I think that, the turnover is crazy because most of the players that were on Florida State, and I know this because I'm as a fan of Florida State last year, were transfers. You had, of course, Jared Verse, who came from Georgia. Braden Fisk was from Western Michigan. So a lot of the players weren't on the team. They came because of the money and stuff like that. So we were able to be good for a year, but we just didn't keep anybody because of the fact that we replaced the position so quickly with so much talent. And then when they left, we sucked because we just had no one behind them anymore. So I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. I just know that it's going to have a lot of turnover and it's going to be very quick turnover. And it creates a situation where we have good football one year for a team and then really bad football the next year. It's going to be hard to stay dominant and it's going to be who has the most money.
Yeah, I always am all for parity. That's why NFL is such a great sport, and that's why it's the head of by far any other major sport in the country. But sometimes parity it can be too much, and so if it's a year to year thing, I think you could have a hard time finding teams that become all time greats because it's just straight up. Who had the most money to afford the best, and a lot of times, more often than not, when you have it on paper, it typically works out negatively in your favor if you're just like on paper the best team and
Right.
and all that stuff. So a lot harder to develop players, especially when you saw Georgia and Bama and Clemson recently. They could just stack and stack 5 stars and just sit them for a year and not worry about them leaving. Well, now 5 stars can just get up and leave, and it's just like, I'm not starting, so I'm gonna go somewhere and start. And I don't know if that's a great thing for the sport, but it's a transition I think was needed because it was long, long overdue for the change up top in the way the sport is run. But I think we still have a long way to go for until we finally have a good product to where we can just say this is the best era to watch college football.
Yeah, absolutely. Micah Hudson is a great example. And who was, sorry, Dustin, I'm going to make you say it. The edge for Florida State that just left, he was a 5 star also. Um,
The edge for Florida State.
yeah, he just transferred out of Florida State. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
I'll pull it up.
But both of those guys, two 5 stars transferring out, one going to Texas A&M, and then Florida State's edge that I can't think of the name of. He is also leaving. after his
Oh,
first year.
Marvin Jones Jr., the one we
Marvin
talked
Jones
about
Jr.
earlier.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. So both of those guys are gone from their respective schools after a year, and those are big hits, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
those are young guys that made a decision to go to those schools, and now they just switch out, and I don't love it for the sport, so we'll just have to see where it goes from here.
Yeah,
As
another
the
one's Bear Alexander for USC. He basically quit just so he could have one more year of eligibility, and he's
Matthew
going to be on
Sluka.
his third
Yep.
or fourth school in 5 years. And
Yeah.
he moved a bunch in college or in high school, moving between schools, and it's just like that's not a great precedent to set for high level recruits to me.
Yeah,
Right.
got to do it like Finley and change every year. I agree.
Next up, though, let's get back to the picks. The next game is a lot of fun, and I believe everybody will play. There's no way I'm not picking South Carolina. I mean, they have just been so freaking good. I think that this is a terrible decision to put them against Illinois. I do love the bowl. Don't get me wrong. I love Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. I do. But I thought they could have gotten a better game, a better team in this situation because they have just been. They're the best team. They're the dark horse to be the should have been in the playoffs, best team at this point in the year, and I don't think that Illinois is going to have anything for them. So I think that South Carolina rolls. Lenore Sellers is a stud. Rocket Sanders may not play, doesn't matter. Defensive line wise, I don't know that T.J. Sanders or Kyle Kennard will play, and then I don't think Nick Manawari will play. So if those guys are all out, fine. It's a little bit closer, but I just doesn't matter. Does not matter. Lenore Sellers, give me South Carolina.
Yep. I'm on Team Gamecocks here. Shout out Lenore Sellers for winning SEC Freshman of the Year. South Carolina's been probably the scariest team in the SEC over the last few weeks. Obviously, Georgia winning it. They've had the better season, but South Carolina has been on an absolute tear and got hot at the right time, if you will. Sucks that there was some interesting refs against in the LSU game. Otherwise, the script here would probably be different. But yeah, I'm full South Carolina, and this is actually going to be one of my higher confidence ones.
Yeah, and I mean, other than the Mississippi or Ole Miss game, obviously being a blowout at home, I mean, the LSU controversial loss, and then Bama, it came down to just a botched situational. They were down two, got the onside, and just didn't move the ball at the end. But they could very well be 11-1 and had been in this SEC title game, and this whole playoff would be very, very different. They were actually something that you were arguing should make it over Alabama and stuff like that, but obviously losing to Bama and Ole Miss, it's hard to put, if you don't win either game, put in front of both, despite power rankings wise clearly being better than both of them at this very point in time. So, but yeah, too much firepower. There's not enough people sitting for South Carolina. There is on Illinois. I like South Carolina as well.
Yeah, I think Pat Bryant, the starting receiver, might sit. He was second team all conference in the Big Ten. He's a pretty solid player. He's going to be sitting for the draft. So he's the only one, though, that I know of off the top of my head that will be sitting. Going on to the next game, though, do love the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, but next up we have the Kinder Texas Bowl. I use Kinder all the time. I do love Kinder. This is not a paid promotion, but I do enjoy it. LSU, who we just talked about, 8-4 against Baylor, 8-4. Baylor had an interesting end of the season, going up and down, beating Kansas, just absolutely destroying Kansas to end the year. Power ranking says 33rd. I could make a case it should be a little higher, but I don't know that they're good enough to play with this LSU team. But at the same time, it's in Houston, right in the middle. It's a very fun game. This is one of my lowest confidence picks by far on the whole board. And I'm going to side with LSU because Garrett Nussmeier will be back.
I completely agree. This is not, it's somewhere like medium confidence for me. I want to wait to see what the receivers for LSU do, as far as if they're going to play in it. Looking at their defensive guys, obviously still without Harold Perkins. He's out for the
Right.
year. But they've been playing without him at this point. That shouldn't be a big adjustment at this point of the year. I would take LSU, and like I said, somewhere medium high, not highest confidence, but up probably slightly above the middle.
Fair.
Well, I might get some leverage on you in this one because I'm gonna pick Baylor. I just love the fact that they finished the season as strong as they did, winning 6 straight. And I know beating Kansas, who didn't even make a bowl, 45-17, that's not a big deal. Well, Kansas basically was the Big 12 champion with the teams that they were knocking off right coming into that game, and they were playing their best ball. And Baylor's just doing really well. LSU had 3 convincing losses in that same stretch against teams to knock themselves out of the playoffs. And but yeah, true pick 'em to me. 84% is on the LSU side. I think that's just far too wide, and that's one of the picks I want to be a little bit different on.
All right. Well, going to the next game, Duke and Ole Miss in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl, and this is my most confident pick.
Me too.
This is it. This is the most confident pick on the board. Ole
Yep.
Miss is winning this game. Jackson Dart is playing. Malik Murphy is out for Duke. He is going to go into the transfer portal. I think if Jackson Dart doesn't play and Malik Murphy plays, I still pick Ole Miss. Either way, so that doesn't change it.
Well, I don't think Malik Murphy would be eligible to play in a bowl game.
No, no, no. I'm saying if he was because Jackson
If
Dart.
he-
I'm
if he
sorry.
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
transferring
I'm
at
just
all.
making
you're
the
right.
scenario.
I see, I see.
Um,
Gotcha, my fault.
Yeah, yeah. So Ole Miss is winning this game. It's not even close in my opinion. 14 and a half. I still think they probably clear that. And they will be my 47 confidence points worthy team.
Yeah,
Um,
they are. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I have nothing to add. That was
Yeah.
literally it. He got it. It's Ole Miss, and that's the answer.
Yeah, we can move on. It's the highest spread on the entire bowl,
Yeah.
season, and yeah, Ole Miss all the way.
I will say before we do move on though, Trey Harris, Princely, Malin, Perkins, Jaden Ivey, Walter Nolan. I don't know if any of those guys are playing. I don't know if Chris Paul's playing. I don't know if Amos is going to play. That's up in the air. And even if they don't play, Ole Miss wins this game. So
Yeah, it doesn't
um,
matter.
yeah, I just wanted to add that they are they're all going to be NFL draft prospects, so they might not play. Going to the next game, a very close to our heart game right here.
Mm-hmm.
We are Texas State fans. Texas State is, we live in the town that Texas State is in. They are minus 10-point favorites, and that has a lot to do with the fact that Chandler Morris is going to be transferring from North Texas, but Texas State has also got a transfer. Ismail Mahdi put himself in the transfer portal, which is really sad, but he was a first-team running back and a second-team all-purpose player this year. He was a All-American all-purpose player last year for Texas State, so he will be out, but I still have to pick Texas State in this game. The power ranking shows everything. That is with Chandler Morris. Chandler Morris made this team go. He had one of the highest, I think he was top 10, I believe he was top 10 in passing yards for the whole year, and without him, they just don't have an offense. I don't think they can go the same, and so Texas State will be the team I'm picking. That game is in Dallas, and I know a bunch of our friends are going, so it's a very exciting game for us here.
Yeah, I definitely will be going to that game. That's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Cam sounds
I'm not talking.
Sorry, good.
No, you're good. Yeah, 68.5 is such a crazy high total. I think that's the highest total in the entire bowl slate. But yeah, Texas State, just offensively, I like the way that they play. And Ismail Mahdi, I did not realize was in the transfer portal. I actually didn't realize that he was eligible. I thought he was a fourth year, but he is not. But yeah,
Grad
Texas
transfer.
State. Yeah, Texas State, I love in this spot, winning their second straight bowl game and second ever.
Yeah, I graduated from North Texas from my grad school, and so me and Steiger, both North Texas alums, Texas State's gonna win. Sad,
Yes.
but it's true. And I'm a Texas State fan. Grew up a Texas State fan too. But with Chandler Morris being out, I just don't foresee this North Texas team doing a whole lot. Their offensive efficiency, 63rd, and that's with a gunslinger back there. And then with their turnover margin, neither team is good at that. So, and then without your guy who's been starting all year at QB, I don't foresee that getting any better
Right.
in that moment. So I think Texas State wins.
Perfect. Texas State still has some good players. Ben Bell is actually also transferring. He didn't do
Mhm.
anything this
I
year,
saw
but
that.
not the point. He is going to be transferring out. He was first team all defensive end last year for Texas State. But going to the next game, we got Minnesota and the Virginia Tech Hokies. Um, the Duke Mayo Bowl. I actually think this is a pretty cool emblem also for this one. Duke Mayo Bowl is pretty solid. Out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Much shorter trip for Virginia Tech. Power ranked 34th, 31st. That's pretty close for both of these teams. Strength of schedule 48th and 49th. I mean, these teams are as much matched as you can get all the way across the board. If you look at some of the players that may not be playing, though, on the Minnesota side, the offensive lineman of the year in Ariante Ursary will probably not be playing. He will be going to the draft. He will be a fringe first round draft pick. So he is one of the guys that might not be there. And then Antoine Powell Ryland for the Hokies had 16 sacks this year. He might be getting ready for the draft also. So some things that are up in the air. This is one of the last games of the year. This is actually in January. So we have a lot of time before this game happens. But I will be siding with the Virginia Tech Hokies. And 5.5 is a pretty wide for me, especially if you just look up and down all these, power rankings, efficiencies, everything. They're evenly matched. This should be a straight pick 'em, low scoring game, and I'll be on the Hokies side.
I agree with you. I'm in Virginia Tech's side as well. Very low confidence, but 15% are on our side as well. I didn't expect it to be that wide. That's even wider than a 5-point spread would even indicate. So, yeah, everybody's on Minnesota for some reason, and I'm going to just be on the other side of this one.
I am also on the Vautech side. They were one of those teams, had a lot of close losses throughout the year, probably better than 6-6, really. And I do like their quarterback, Kyron Jones. He's
Yeah.
a lot of fun to watch, very versatile player. And he's one of the few that is not in the transfer portal because Virginia Tech has a lot of guys in that. I think Virginia Tech wins though with him leading them.
One guy that I didn't mention is Tootin. Tootin is the running back for Virginia Tech. He had 1,159 rushing yards. He was a second team All ACC player. I think he's gonna be able to do his own thing. The best player for Minnesota defensively is actually a freshman, true freshman. Coy Parrish had 5 interceptions this year. He is on the all freshman team, and I think he might even earn Defensive Freshman of the Year, which is a very big thing. In my personal opinion, it's an awesome honor. So he's a guy that is exciting, but I still think Virginia Tech's just gonna find a way to win this game. It's a little bit closer, and I think that they get it done. The last bowl game before we get into the college football playoff picks is going to be the Bahamas Bowl in Nassau. Guys, help me.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. All right. Cool. The Bahama Bowl between Buffalo and Liberty. Liberty is currently -2, which I found very interesting. I think the percentage for Liberty is 80% right now, which is just ridiculous, especially when Caden Slater is transferring.
Salter.
The Salter, sorry. You're right. He is the starting quarterback for the Flames. I don't know why this hasn't changed to at least Pick'em or Buffalo side. Al Henderson had almost 1,000 rushing yards this year, but the guy that I really want to talk about his name is Sean Dolick. He had 159 total tackles, 5.5 sacks, and 5 interceptions. Defensive Player of the Year in the MAC. He was a walk-on to start his career. And that is just amazing. Absolute mad props for that guy. Just one of those guys that, goes to work every day. Just a walk on in that situation is awesome to see. So I'm going to be picking Buffalo in this situation, and I do not understand the spread.
I am also on the Buffalo side. I think Liberty had the second worst strength of schedule in the entire country this year. And being 8-3, that seems like it's good, but you lost to a two-win Kennesaw State on one of the games that we talked about earlier in the year, and Sam Houston State to end the year. Buffalo averaged 43 points a game over the final month of the season, so they're kind of hitting their stride on the right time, and I just am going to ride with them, and the margin between only 23% versus Liberty and basically a pick'em game is just I'm going to be on the other side of the public.
So earlier in the year, there was a guy who said he thought Liberty could make the playoff.
No. That's not what I said. That's not what I said. You need to not tell people that. I said if
Um,
a team goes undefeated, even if they're in a shitty conference and have a bad strength of schedule, they should be allowed to make the playoff.
so fun story there. 3 days later, they lost to Kennesaw State,
That's
which
correct.
was my favorite story of the year so far.
Get out.
Because I texted Emery at halftime and every possession after that as the
Uh,
score changed. But with
yes.
that being said, Salter being out, they have a loss to Kennesaw State. There's no way I can pick Liberty in this game. I am going to put this very low on my confidence because I could see this going really either way. It could be a tight one, it could be a blowout, either direction, but I think Buffalo will win it.
No, give me Sean Dolick. Give me my guy. He's awesome. 159 tackles, I think, leads the country. So it leads every player in the country. So
Mhm.
now let's get into some college football playoffs. Looking at whoa, maybe it'll change. There it goes. Some of the teams that we want to talk about. You have Oregon. These are the bye teams. So you have Oregon and Arizona State, who had the first bye. Have number one and number four on that side of the bracket. Oregon is been really good. They've had some of the best wins. One thing that me and Dustin and Cam talked about before we put these things up here was we should put strength of schedule or strength of record. If we were to put strength of record, it would show that Oregon was first, I believe, overall, while strength of schedule shows that they're 34th. I think that, it's really telling that they're 34th actually on this, because when we look at other teams, 34th is not very high, especially for a Big Ten team. They're power ranked sixth. They've had one of the best offenses in football. If you talk about Dylan Gabriel, he is a Heisman candidate, and Jordan James has been good. Good receivers. Terrence Ferguson's been good. All of their offense is just so good. They've got great offensive players. Defense is where they lack it. As you can see, it's 16th, which is still really good, but it's not as good as their offense. So, yeah. And then I'll let someone else take Arizona State.
I'll do Arizona State because now I get to say Dilly Dilly. Shout out Coach Kenny Dillingham. He has had taken that team from predicted to finish last in the Big 12 to a first round bye and being in the playoff. Also, they have an amazing running back in Cam Scadaboo. Um, I think that they're going to be fun to watch. I think four is appropriate for them. Um, and then looking at it, power ranking at 22nd, strength of schedule, they played in the Big 12. Offensive efficiency is pretty good. Defense, not so much. They are really good at game control, though, hence the turnover margin being an eighth. And that's kind of how they won games, just being able to control them once they got a lead. Big fear there. I think they learned from that BYU game with how that one went down. But yeah, any other thoughts on them?
All good. I can add one guy. Xavier Alford on defense is pretty solid. He had 82 tackles, 2 interceptions. He's their leader on defense.
One thing to note, I believe you brought it up to me the other day, was Jordan Tyson is
Oh,
out for the
yes.
year, and that is their best receiver. Or
Jordan
at least
Tyson broke his collarbone,
yeah,
so
and
he's out.
he had 3 times as many receptions, I believe, and yards as the second best receiver on the team, who I think is Scadaboo. So to show how important Scadaboo is and how important Tyson was to that team.
Right. But yeah, let's go on to the next one. Cam, I'll let you grab this one. If it'll let me switch. There it goes. You get Georgia.
Yeah, so Georgia was just straight up and down, back and forth. They were on the verge of being knocked out of the playoff entirely in their final game of the year. Or, I mean, they still would have been in the SEC title game and what have you, but they would have been 3-loss team, win or go home. But they, with that win, guaranteed a spot no matter what. But yeah, edging Texas out once again. I think clearly they were the inferior team, and Texas lost more so than they won. But also the big story is Carson Beck, that there's already pessimism, even though they would be 3 weeks from playing, may not be available for this game. And I think they're probably going to be one of the most popular picks to win it all. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the public reacts to them. Because while they're backup quarterback, and I'm forgetting his name top of my head, he did lead the touchdown drive.
Stockton.
Yeah, Stockton. Lead the touchdown drive to take the lead and for good against Texas. But I think they figured him out pretty quickly after that first couple drives, and I think having 3 weeks to prepare for him, I think that'll put them behind because other than playing Texas, they've really played down to almost every single team over the last 2 months.
Right. No, I completely agree with that. I think that Georgia is one of the flukiest possible teams that we've seen. Almost losing to Georgia Tech in 8 overtimes. We talked about that earlier. And that game was real close. So I think that Georgia is going to have to get it together if they're going to want to win this college football playoff. But let's talk about this Boise State team. Probably the I think they if Arizona State and them played, they would probably beat them, but probably the worst team of the group. But they do have the best player of the whole group. Ashton Genty, we've talked about him all year long. We probably talked about him too much, honestly, at this point, but he has not proven us wrong. We have said everything, and he just keeps doing it. He has been perfect, offensive player of the year in the Mountain West, probably player of the year in the Mountain West. Almost 25, 3 yards short of 2,500 rushing yards, 29 total touchdowns, rushing touchdowns. He's just been so good. And then, that's awesome. That's awesome. We talk about Ashton Genty a lot. On defense, though, this is the thing that we have to really talk about. Can they keep up with these teams? 35th overall defensive efficiency. Well, they have four guys that have totaled 30 and a half sacks on this year. That is really awesome. They have the ability to get after the quarterback. That sets them apart, in my personal opinion, and that's why they were able to stay 12-1, play a close game against Oregon. The only loss that they have on their schedule is a 3-point loss to the number one overall team in the nation. I think that Boise State's good. I think that they're reasonably ranked, though, power ranking wise, if you look at it. And I think that that's really going to be telling, though, when they get into the second round, when they have to play these teams that are going to be ranked 6th or 11th, that are much higher on the power ranking scale. So let's get into it. I think Cameron, you're first. Okay.
Sweet. So
No,
just doing
Dustin's
this
first.
No,
Sorry.
Dustin.
Oh, I'm first. All right. Well, I gave my first picks. Y'all heard all those already. Tennessee over Ohio State, Texas over Clemson, Notre Dame over Indiana, SMU over Penn State. Promised I wasn't lying earlier. Go Stangs.
Yeah, I did it where we're going to have to see every first round first. So
Gotcha.
Cam's up next, and then we'll restart it.
Yeah, so I think me and Emery had the exact same first round. So Ohio State over Tennessee, Texas over Clemson, Notre Dame over Indiana, and then a really, really close game, but Penn State playing Boise State.
Yep. I had the same. Me and Cam were thinking alike. Ohio State, I just think that they're the best team in the nation, and on paper, too. Just looking at them on paper, they're by far better than anybody, and I just don't think Tennessee can keep up. Texas beating Clemson, that game's my least comfortable game, even knowing Penn State and SMU are on here. Notre Dame beating Indiana, that's my most confident game of the four, and then Penn State finding a way to beat SMU, and probably a close game also. All right, Dustin. There it is.
Next, Oregon, I do see Texas beating Arizona State. As I said, I think Arizona State's fun, but I think they will run into some trouble once they get to the better teams. Texas. Georgia over Notre Dame. And then, yes, you see it at the bottom. SMU moving on. I need Boise State. Great team, great season, beating UNLV again in the conference championship and controlling that one. Only the 3-point loss to Oregon. This SMU offense just scares me. And Boise State only putting up 21 against UNLV. I think it'll be assuming SMU does beat Penn State and they get to this point. I think it'll be a really fun game. But I think SMU's firepower wins.
And I think even though Boise State going to be considered the home team and they do get the bye, I think SMU is actually going to be closer to Glendale, Arizona, which they will be playing in the Fiesta Bowl. Yep. So slight advantage there and just kind of continue going with the rich people. That's fun.
Yeah, that's why they're so good. They got all that money. They're paying on the players.
Bet on the billionaires.
My question with this, Boise State, SMU go head-to-head, and this matchup ends up coming into fruition. Who do you think is favored in this game?
Who will be on the spread?
Yeah, on the spread.
Boise State.
You think Boise State still would be spread? Or
yeah,
I don't know.
I think at least to open with, I think it starts as like a 2.5. And then I think betting probably moves it to the SMU side, or at least gets it closer to a pick'em.
Do you want to put money on the pre-spread?
No. That sounds like the most losable bet I've ever been offered in my life. So no, I'm gonna pass on
Um,
that.
no, I think SMU has will be the team that has the spread when it comes out. I actually saw some predictions on the spreads already from certain betting markets, so I might have a little bit insider, so I probably won't be fair if I did take your money. But yeah, I think SMU would be the team with the favorite on the spread. What do you
Gotcha.
think, Cam?
No, I was kind of siding with that, but being somewhat of a pick 'em. But SMU, I just feel like would be the stronger team, and I feel like people would be kind of disrespecting Boise State a little bit just because they kind of, inherited in just by winning the games that they're supposed to. And then their only loss is the best loss in the country this year, on the road against Oregon. So where Ginty still went off.
Right.
Yeah, I just feel like the public's kind of against them, and basically if you had to ask every single program what team would you want to face with your first game, I feel like all 11 other teams would play or want to play Boise State.
I think it's Arizona State,
You think
personally.
Arizona State even?
Personally, yeah.
I
I
would
Mm,
think I'd
agree.
rather face Arizona State than Boise State.
I'd pick
gotcha.
Arizona State too.
Okay.
Both built the same way. One has a better defense, in my opinion, and that's Boise State. I do
Fair.
have a question though, because similar to your question, what would the line be in the Georgia Notre Dame game? What do you think the line would be?
Where are they playing? This game would be in New Orleans.
Yeah.
So basically a pretty neutral site. I would probably say the public would give Georgia 3.5 to start.
So I saw predictions that it was 2.5 to Notre Dame.
Really?
And that's just
Okay.
because of power rankings and a lot of things, but also with Carson back out, I think that that's a reasonable thing. But yeah, I did want to know because I think Notre Dame would be favored actually in that game, and I think it's very close. So it's basically a pick 'em 2.5 on both sides if you
Mhm.
decide. But yeah, I think Notre Dame is actually who is the favorite to be favored in that game. We'll see though, because I expect that game to happen. So we'll actually get that game. We don't expect because Cam, you picked Penn State to play Boise State, so we're not sure that we're going to expect that game to happen. But here's yours. So let's hear it.
Yeah, so with mine, I am going with Ohio State over Oregon. I think I've been kind of preaching this, which I feel like y'all have as well, but Ohio State in a rematch would take out Oregon on a neutral site. And so with this game taking place in Pasadena,
Hmm.
obviously way less of a road for Oregon, but I think Ohio State would travel well and they'll just be on a vengeance to, you know, rectify that loss. And then Texas, Notre Dame, Penn State. Penn State's the only one that we had different. I'd really prefer SMU, but I would pick SMU or Penn State over Boise State if it came down to it. That's just kind of how I felt about it. And then Texas, like I said, I think that even though I did say everybody would want to play Boise State, I think Arizona State is the second team, and it's by a wide margin. It's clearly those two teams you'd want to play out of any of these 12. And so Texas really set themselves up nicely for an easier path, and they just did play in um, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium
Hmm.
just last week. They're going to be traveling way less far, and then they're going to have way more fans there as well.
Yeah, I think that it's reasonable. I think it's actually probably an 11-point game or something like spread wise between Arizona State and Texas. I think it's a very wide margin. Um, I think Ohio State's actually favored also over Oregon in this situation. So
Mm.
because they have played, this is a neutral site. I believe Ohio State was basically favored in that first game too. So I think they'll be favored. I think, and I'll flip to mine so we can see it. Oh, look, it's just like Cam's. For some reason, Cam and me decided the same games. So we'll see if that continues in the semifinals. I did pick Ohio State to beat Oregon. I think they have too many just solid players across the board. I know they lost to Michigan. We're going to say that that was rivalry week and that was a fluke because rivalry week does things to people that we just don't understand. Ryan Day cannot beat Michigan, and it is what it is. But he can beat Oregon, and we're going to see him do it, okay, in the second time around. And then Texas is going to basically handle Arizona State. I'm sorry, Cam Scattaboo. I really like you as a player, but Texas is going to do what they want because their defensive line's too good, their offensive line's too good. You can't stop them. That is what it is. Notre Dame, we both picked Notre Dame to beat Georgia. I'm comfortable with that, actually. I really like their defense. I think Georgia plays too many close games that they almost lose, and I just don't think that you want to play Notre Dame in a close, gritty game. I think that in a close, gritty game, Notre Dame beats you. And then Penn State is just too athletic for Boise State. That's really what it comes down to for me. Abdul Carter, Jalen Reed on defense, and then on offense, just pick a running back, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, and then Tyler Warren can play any position you want him to. Offensive line's so good, and then let Drew do his thing. So that's how I felt on this game, on these games. But Dustin, let's hear your semifinal picks and your final pick. There it is.
So mine does hinge on Carson Beck mainly and his health and what
Fair.
that looks like. Because if he's ruled out, and I'm probably going to end up moving Notre Dame over Georgia, but it'll just kind of depend on that.
Okay.
And then that'll change the rest of it, which is the fun of this because these can change. Round to round. But given assuming health and whatnot, I'm going with Oregon over Texas. And again, I think Texas handles Arizona State easily, but I think their offensive struggles, they just might not be able to keep up with Oregon's offensive firepower. But I think it'd be a really good game. And then if Carson Beck is healthy, I think Georgia's defense is just strong enough to where SMU will just have trouble. And that's their big thing, is being able to move the ball, and facing a good Georgia defense is going to be very difficult to do that. But at the end of the day, I do think Oregon ends up beating Georgia based on how everything looks right now. They just look the most complete of all the teams. They're not my favorite by any means, but they are the only one that hasn't lost. They've handled the close games. Right now, Georgia just hasn't given me enough, including with their health issues, to pick them over Oregon in the final.
You have a 16-0 Oregon team, huh?
Hmm.
Potentially.
William will be very happy with you.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad because the Seahawks keep beating my Cardinals, so he
That's
can
fair.
pay it back later.
But yeah, so I get it. I get it. If you do have Tennessee beating Ohio State, I think Oregon continues. I think Texas is an interesting team because they do leave too many points on the board. So we'll talk about them in a second. I'll let Cam talk his bracket up though. Go
Real
ahead.
quick, if you did want to go back to Dusty's, I did have two quick questions. In the event that Tennessee does fall and it's Ohio State versus Oregon in a rematch, first question is, do you still side with Oregon? And
No.
then my second, okay, so you would still you would be with us on the Ohio State side.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, and then my second question is 2 versus 7. You said you were really on the fence. It's about Carson Beck. 2 versus 7, is that 2-7 no matter what over SMU, or do you feel a little differently if Notre Dame does advance?
I think, great question. I think Notre Dame advances if they beat Georgia. Again, it's the same reason though. Their defense is just really good, and SMU has only played ACC defenses, and BYU. And then just playing a really good defense with either Georgia or Notre Dame, I think either one would be able to handle it.
Gotcha.
Okay. First
Yeah.
scenario: Ohio State wins. Do they beat Texas and win the whole thing? In your
You're
person.
saying if they win their first one and then beat
Yeah,
Oregon?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. At that point, yeah, they would
They do,
follow
okay.
the Oregon path at that
Okay.
point. Yeah.
And then on the other side, I was going to ask if Notre Dame wins, can they beat Oregon if this is how it goes?
I would.
You just
I think that would probably be the most fun matchup of how this all plays out. Would be a Notre Dame crazy good defense with a really good running game, and Riley Leonard, who's a gamer, going up against Oregon. I think that
Okay.
would be a super fun game to watch.
gotcha.
I think if it came down to that, Notre Dame over Oregon, but Ohio State over Notre Dame.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's a lot of what ifs. Thanks for all the what ifs on that.
Hey, you
Well,
can't do
we-
a GTD episode without having if-then statements.
Ours looks nothing like yours, Dustin.
I know.
Ask us questions. I don't know
Well,
what to tell
okay.
you.
Go ahead and go to yours next so I can comment.
It's
Way to
Cam's.
go. You went chalk for the first round and then anti-chalk for the second round.
It's not
So-
Damn right I
anti-chalk.
did.
There's a lot going on here.
It's chalk, and then it's probably not anti-chalk. I think Texas is favored. I think Ohio State's favored.
Seating-wise, based
Notre
on
Dame-
seating, it's chalk and not chalk.
Right.
Yeah,
Notre
5,
Dame
6, 7,
goes a
8.
pick 'em.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever. All right, Cam, tell us about it.
Yeah, so this just kind of comes down to Texas if you take care of business because you had your path perfectly set up for you to win it all. Obviously having the home game against Clemson, against Arizona State, you travel least, and on top of that, you're going to be a touchdown favorite despite being a lower seed. And then Ohio State, that's in the Cotton Bowl. You're going to be by far the biggest home team in there. I think you'll be maybe I would say probably a slight favorite in that, but taking care of that and then playing Notre Dame, I think whoever comes out of the top, if it's Oregon, Ohio State, or Texas, I would pick to win it all. It doesn't matter the matchup, head to head. You can save your if then questions. If it's Ohio State, if it's Oregon, if it's Texas, I think if any of them represent, it will be my pick to win it all.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
I have a question because we're going to talk about this on mine. We already saw where I got to on my quarterfinals. So with yours, you're saying that similarly, there's three teams that are very, very big question marks on if they can play when it matters, and they've lost close games, and they always play close games. Those are Georgia, Texas, and Ohio State. Those are the three teams that we have question marks on. I think Penn State's a question mark too, but at least I saw them play Oregon, and I thought they looked good. So with those three teams, you have two of them playing each other, and you're picking Texas to win. But at the same time, my question is, do you think that with Georgia, Texas, and Ohio State, who is the most susceptible to losing to a team that they should not lose to? Say Texas losing to Clemson or Arizona State, Ohio State losing to Tennessee, or
My
Georgia.
answer would be 100% Texas if they had a losable opponent, but I don't think they do in the first two rounds.
Okay.
So with that, my answer would be probably Georgia because they have the toughest matchup against Notre Dame. I think they match up pretty well with them. So Georgia, and on top of that, having a quarterback controversy, not controversy, but unknown or question mark because of the injury to Carson Beck. And on top of that, even if he does play, he has not played well at all this year.
Fair.
So, that's kind of would be my answer. Ohio State, really other than just collapsing against Michigan, they don't have like a bad stretch or schedule. And
Right.
the loss against Oregon, I said Boise State is the best loss in the country. Well, Ohio State was right there with them. Like they just didn't get a field goal off. They pulled a Dak Prescott QB slide and just didn't clock it. And that's what it came down to. And that's why we're so confident that all three of us would pick Ohio State over Oregon in that event.
Yep. Completely agree. I was just wondering. All right. Go ahead, Dustin. You can break down mine. I have Ohio State winning it all. I had similar to Cam. We had the same four in our quarterfinals. I have Ohio State beating Texas. I think Texas is susceptible to losing a close game, similar to how they lost to Georgia. And I think that, as Cam said, Texas has the more susceptible team than Ohio State to doing something like that. So I am picking Ohio State. And then Notre Dame, Penn State is the hardest game for me to pick. But either way, whoever wins will lose to Ohio State, in my personal opinion. I picked Penn State, just too many athletes, but that game is super tough. I think that's like the 17-14 game that's like super entertaining. So I hope that actually does happen. But yeah, this is my bracket. What do y'all think?
I am shocked you put Penn State above Notre Dame.
I'm
The rest I get. I don't hate it whatsoever. I am utterly befuddled, flabbergasted
okay.
that you put the guy you have slandered over
Absolute
and
slander.
over
I know.
above Notre Dame.
Yes, because I
Give me
think
the
that
reasoning. I need the reasoning.
okay. Well, the problem with Notre Dame, out of everything, is their strength of schedule.
Sure.
Watching, they lose to Northern Illinois. The team that Penn State has lost to are Ohio State and Oregon.
Yeah.
Best losses if you had a two-loss team are those two. To also talk about it, they're going to come off a much easier schedule where they're going to be riding really high, in my opinion. Where is
Yep.
this game? Does anybody know? Just so, because I don't know off the top of my head.
In the national championship?
The quarterfinal
Or-
game between Notre Dame and Penn
It's
State.
it's in the Orange Bowl, Hard Rock for the Miami Dolphin Stadium.
Okay, so neither of them are close. Obviously, I think Penn State would be a little bit closer, but it's just I can't with James Franklin. Don't get me wrong, but I think that this team is too talented to actually let that affect them negatively.
Sure.
When I don't think Notre Dame offensively is as talented. I
Yeah.
think that Penn State's defense can stop Notre Dame's offense. I think that Notre Dame's defense can stop Penn State's offense, but not at the same degree. Where I think
No.
that they're still going to score points, they're still going to be doing things, but in the other, you know what I mean. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think that that's why I put them ahead. But truly, that game should be a pick 'em, and it should be 17-14, and we should all be like, at the end of the game, just like whoever gets the ball at the end is going to win the game, kind of thing. So
So what if for you, say Notre Dame does beat Penn State, is Ohio State still the champion?
no matter what.
Okay.
Actually, I think that even with the toughest road, because that's what Ohio State has. They have to play the extra game. They still have to play at the Rose Bowl against Oregon.
Yep.
Then they have to play Texas because I don't expect Clemson or Arizona State to make it out. That is the hardest road. And then they get whoever comes out of the other side and they have to play
Yep.
them. Um, they're still going to win it all because they're just the best team. They have the most talent. Caleb Downs, JT Tuimaleau, Jack Sawyer, Quinshawn, Travion. Pick a player. Jeremiah Smith,
Never mind.
Emeka, Buka.
Mecca.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere. Um, so I just think they're better, and I think they win the whole thing. And Ryan Day gets to get fired for losing to Michigan and winning a national championship in the same year.
One thing I did want to
Sure.
point out that's fun, and again, fair reminder that if you are doing this bowl pick'em contest, which we are giving prizes away for the top three, you can maneuver around. So if your teams don't make it all the way, you don't have to keep
Mhm.
your pick that way, and you can
Yeah.
change your pick and maneuver your confidence rating. Obviously,
At
moving
that
your
point, it's
confidence up
late.
and down, it's going to be tougher, but you can still pick your changes. And we've already talked about a couple of different instances that, if then statements, we would swap our pick if this team ends up not winning. A couple of us mentioned that. But one thing I did want to point out was obviously the Cotton Bowl winner coming from the top of the bracket. Bottom is going to be the Orange Bowl winner. Only 35% are picking the Cotton Bowl winner to win it all. And that is talking about Ohio State, Oregon, teams like Texas, whereas 65% are on the bottom side. And other than Georgia, I don't know who is pulling ownership of winning it all enough to get it to 65%. I thought that was very, very interesting when I saw that.
I
It's
have a
probably
feeling. I mean, it's got to be Georgia, Notre Dame, Penn State, but I don't know how they're pulling more than Texas, Oregon, Ohio State.
Mhm.
So I agree with you. Go
I
ahead,
got
Dustin.
it's probably just the SMU billionaires doing it.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. They got all the pull, so they've got it under control.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate y'all. Let me stop sharing. I'm sorry. Let me get out of here. My dog is gonna go crazy right now. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Like we said, we have a lot of stuff going on. We're gonna have our bowl pick'em. You have to be in by Saturday at 11 o'clock is when the first game starts, the Jackson State game. If you got an opportunity to watch this all the way through, we appreciate y'all being here this whole time. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, we can't thank you guys enough. Hopefully you enjoyed our first ever, 3-person stream. We will have more of these in the future now that we finally have the equipment and the means to do so. So can't thank you guys enough, especially if you were able to tune in for the entirety of this 2-hour episode. But it's going to be one of the longest that we'll ever record because of the fact that there's so much to cover. I mean, there's almost 40 games that we got to talk about. And so, yeah, can't thank y'all enough. Good luck to everybody that plays our contest. I hope we are able to send you all the merch that you desire, and on top of that, a NFL Shop gift card.
Yeah, this was a super fun video. Looking forward to making more in the future, and excited to see a bunch of y'all in the group in the contest, and playing against y'all, trying to see who gets the most wins. So thank y'all very much for joining us, though.
Yeah, we'll see y'all next time. We appreciate it.